I want to assure you that this team has done a good job, and I'm sure that the recommendations they will come up with, if they are implemented, it will sort out the many challenges that we have had in the education sector.
The Kenya Kwanza side is expected today to name its members who will participate in mediation talks with the opposition. Just a day after naming the members who will be led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Azimio members stated that they are ready for the talks. Azimio insisted that the cost of living must be discussed by the selected panel, despite the majority leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, saying that only 5 issues will be discussed and not the cost of living. These as Kenya Kwanza leaders have maintained that the talks should be made open so that every Kenyan knows what is being discussed.
Na tunataka tumuulize Rais William Ruto, ikiwa Raila atakutembelea, tunataka ile mazungumzo ikuwe wazi. Tunataka media wakuwe pale, maredio ikuwe pale. Raila anauliza bei ya unga, sisi kama wakulima tunataka tusikie anauliza kwa nini. Kwa sababu ukiona ile communique wamefanya weekend, hakuna mahali wameandika cost of living. Agenda, nia na malengo ya Raila Odinga na ndugu zake wa kuzimia ni kutafuta ufalme wa userikali.
Is any conversation that must go on between William Ruto and Raila Odinga, let it be public. Iwekwe hapo mbele, waanze na tusikize yenye wanaongeleshana.
Now, the fourth phase of the postmortem exercise on bodies found at Shakahola forest came to an end yesterday, with government pathologist Johansen Odor stating that they had autopsied 26 bodies. He, however, said that they were not able to know the cause of death of most of the victims due to the level of decomposition.
Today we've done 26 autopsies. Yesterday we had said that we are remaining with 24 autopsies. However, as we are doing postmortem today, we realized that 2 of the females who are being done autopsy on were gravid, meaning that they were pregnant. So making it 2 more persons. Of these postmortems, adults were 14 while children were 10. Most of them we are unable to ascertain the cause of death because of decomposition. This is 18, while 8 of them died because of starvation, and 2 of them we were unable to establish the gender because of a level of deterioration. Male were 8 and female were 14. 4 of them were decomposed to such an extent we are unable to determine the gender.
The death toll from the Al-Shabaab attack along the Lamu-Witu-Garsen highway near the border of Lamu and Tana River counties is at 2. Interior CS Kithure Kindiki says that this is after the second victim, who is the wife of Hindi MCA James Njaga, died while receiving medical treatment in ICU. Kindiki says 2 people sustained life-threatening injuries during the attack, which left 10 others injured. He added that the situation was saved by security personnel who engaged their approximately 60 terrorists, scattering them into the Boni forest. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has commenced investigations into the alleged embezzlement of 837 million shillings by officials of the Uasin Gishu County government. The funds were collected from parents for the facilitation of tertiary education in Finland and Canada during the 2021-2022 financial year. EACC has established that the Uasin Gishu Education Trust Fund account was opened in May 2021, and by December 2022, 957,167,143 had been credited to the account. This is Newsworm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aya, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
I mean, I don't know. What are they saying? How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of the
The Situation Room.
It's Wednesday, isn't it? Yes, it is. And we're starting to build up traffic through the day. We'll see some of it coming in on the Thika Superhighway. It's going to come into the city real quick, past Survey in just a short while. As you're coming onto Huru Highway and then into the CBD as well, a little bit of traffic as you get to the Haile Selassie Junction. Jogoo Road is also starting to become a beehive of activity, and we'll see that open up as we get towards 7 o'clock. For now, it's all right. Where you're going, where you're coming from, in and out of the CBD won't be too difficult. We'll take a look at other parts of the country in a short while, but Wednesday seems to have started off right. Let's keep it just so and talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's Wednesday, you said. What? Already? And we are well underway into August. Just like that. Hey.
2nd of August. Yes, it is.
Evo. 2nd, then soon it'll be 31st of August.
and we'll be going on to the next one. Hey, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Yes.
Me too.
Guten Morgen.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Bonjour to you.
Wewe.
Mambo ikoje lakini?
Mambo iko bam bam, as Titi would say. Imagine. Can you imagine I'm saying those things? Sheesh.
Yeah. You learned from the best.
It would appear.
Yeah. Where is he, that mzee?
Salting along slowly.
Is he still out there?
With the Raya.
Talking to the people?
Yeah.
Telling the people the things that the people want to hear.
This is how it shall be. Taking the views of the people before you take them to the committee.
Yeah. He's doing public participation.
Exactly.
Hivi ndio mambo yalivyo. Uliona vile walichelewa State House jana? Na nilikuwa nimewauona.
Was Ruto cracking the whip yesterday?
Na nilikuwa nimewauona.
How can you come late to a meeting? In fact, the only time I have been late is when you changed the time of a meeting. And you changed it from 6, you left at 6, you told me to be there at 8. Then now you changed it on the way. That's the only time I was late.
And now
you've come to sign performance contracts. And
the first thing, punctuality.
Hey.
You're already losing marks.
Come on. Are you serious? How do you want Kenyans to take us seriously? Cracked the whip. It's not good. It's a good thing now, Abby.
But how is it that people would go late for a meeting like that?
Goes to show, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Wamezoea kahiyo kamtini.
Exactly.
You know, you come in, there'll be chit chat,
drink tea,
chit chat, kidogo here and there,
talk
and
about the business.
You
it doesn't
don't
really matter.
You don't want to deal with people, so you just say, okay, I think I'm just getting. So we've been told to get there at 8, I'll be there at 9. So I just get in, sit down, meeting starts. This thing of I don't want to meet so and so. Alini boss ana juzi. Yeah, alini boss ana. Where? And also dealing with issues and while here and there. Anyway, Kithure Kindiki will show a show cause. You know, Mr. President, you know,
he was amongst the late ones.
I had intelligence of Lamu, you know.
Boss, but is Kindiki not a man who has so many pots boiling at the same time?
Imagine.
See Pokot, see Lamu, see Shakahola, see Mandamano.
Oh, yeah.
Hey!
Too much.
Nabado passports till November.
Ooh.
Sheesh, all under interior.
Aye. They should just break that ministry. Call it Interior A and Coordination B. So the other one, National Administration. Yeah. So just call one Security and then call the other one Administration. Have 2 ministries. Because too many things. Too much. The champion, the conqueror, the is here.
Ogwefi. Odoziani.
Ogwefi.
Odoziani has come.
I'm not very excited. What is this?
Do you know?
Also not I should respond with joy. But nonetheless, let me just say thank you.
You should. If I tell you what Ogwefi means and Odoziani, you'll be very happy.
Tell us.
Ogwefi is he who kills cow with his hand.
Where?
Odoziani is he who prepares the ground. Has come.
He who kills the cow. Yes. Prepared the cow.
He who killed the cow with his bare hands.
Ogwefi has come.
And the other one is?
Odoziani.
Oh, not Omisiani. Sawa.
Not Diomisiani.
Okay. All right. City?
Yes, please.
Mambo vipi?
Fit.
Kabisa. Welcome. Welcome. While you are away, we were talking about what happened in State House yesterday, but we'll talk about it in the papers. Good morning, everybody. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing today. The Member of Parliament for Kifi North, Owen Bayer, joins us at 7 a.m. to talk about Shakahola and what's happening in Shakahola. Surely. Okay, so Johnson Odoro yesterday said a finished phase 4 of, what is it called, that thing that he does?
Autopsy.
Postmortem and autopsy, right?
Yeah.
Now he's going to go into bring more bodies.
Exhumation will resume after
I don't
this.
understand that thing, but okay, they must know what they're talking about. So that he'll be here, Owen Bayer, the Member of Parliament, to talk to us about that. And then at 8 a.m., let's talk about the Kenya's foreign relations and foreign policy. Dr. Korir Sing'oei is the PS for Foreign Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. He joins us at 8 a.m. to talk about, there are very many things that are happening in the country. So Kenya's foreign policy. So first of all, we did not go to Russia. Our president said, you know what, I am not getting into a bus to meet one leader. No. Doing those things. What does it mean? There's what our president is doing in Sudan, trying to bring peace. There's what is happening in our region. There is still simmering issues in Ethiopia. How does that affect us? All those things, plus many in the region. We still have issues in DRC. We have...
The president also talks about what's happening in West Africa, in Niger.
And the Nigerians have said, okay, so we are not alone. It's Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso.
Guinea.
We are together in brotherhood. We've said no more of this kind of...
And if you try us, basically they said yesterday, if you try us...
Try us, Wone.
Given the gift of sight.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Sing'oei, the PS, joins us at 8 a.m. At 9 o'clock, let's talk about gender, spurring women into developing spaces. Harriet Chigai, the president's advisor on women's rights, who also sits in the cabinet, will be joining us at 9 a.m. for that conversation. We are live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. 18 minutes after 6. Let's do a quick one. Tell us about weather, and then we will do quick shout-outs.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your
It's
day.
a cloudy morning in Nairobi at 14. We'll see highs of 19 today. Highs of 23 and mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 16 and 13 and cloudy in Nyeri. Highs of 18. 22 will be the high in a cloudy Eldoret at 14 and at 23 Mombasa is cloudy. It's cloudy in Malindi at 25 and cloudy at 20 in Kisumu. 18 and mostly cloudy in Kakamega. Looking into Kampala, cloudy at 20 and Dar es Salaam is clear at 23. It's 2 degrees and partly cloudy in Johannesburg. 25 and cloudy in Lagos. And in Kinshasa, it's 21 and cloudy. 29 in Beijing Wednesday afternoon, and it's raining heavily in Paris at 17. Cloudy at 15 in London, and still Tuesday night in New York, it's clear at 21.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Called Perspectives TV says he is number one. Okay, number one. James Mwangi says, good morning, another day. We'll sit back and enjoy the show. Good day to you. Yes, good people. High five to all of you. High five, high five, high five.
Tano.
This is Joe. Good morning, good people. Locked in from Phoenix in Arizona. Louis Anjira says Hausa Inakwana. That is true. In Hausa, in the morning, you greet is Inakwana, and the direct translation is, where is sleep? Inakwana, where is your sleep? Or how was your sleep?
And how do you respond?
Kalo. Kalo is well. Kalo is...
My sleep is well.
No, I am well.
Ati, where is your sleep? I am well.
How is your sleep?
I suspect the implication is I've taken care of my sleep.
It is done. It's sorted, essentially, because it's in a state of well-being.
That's why I'm awake.
Okay.
In Anankalo. Happy Wednesday to y'all good folks. We're here in Atlanta. Good morning to you, Zeke. Sir George Gashoire says, good morning, Ndusiti and Eric. Greetings from Manchester. Watching from Houston, Texas, George Thuo. Do you say Thuo or Thuo? Thuo. Okay. William Gure says, good morning, Three Musketeers. You musket. You know, musketeers are actually folks wielding muskets.
Surely.
Those are what musketeers are.
Musket was a gun.
Exactly.
Which fired one bullet.
Exactly, and you were done. Hopefully you pointed it in the right direction and that you did not end up with ammunition in your face.
Or the noise scared the intended target and they didn't bother you thereafter.
Right, so you gun-wielding individuals have been greeted.
Gun wielding.
Yes. Gladys Waithaka, please say good morning to Gladys, Eric.
Gladys, good morning.
Gladys, good morning.
She said Eric's voice does for her.
Nonetheless,
Yeah,
Gladys, good morning.
Just yes.
Okay. I've missed you, lady and gentlemen. I've been in the highlands of Ednah. Ednah, people who are in your highlands. To lay my dad to rest. To rest. Okay, sorry. To lay to rest my dad-in-law. Ambia Ednah network ya kwao ni mbaya sana.
Oh yeah.
She didn't stand under the right tree.
Surely.
There's a specific tree you must stand under.
Network ilikuwa sawa.
You need to know the tree.
You need to know the tree.
Okay, Desmond, happy new month. Ndu, when is your next birthday? I buy you cake. I'll tell you, don't worry. Nero says, good morning from Mombasa. Good morning, good people tuned in from Doha, the best place to be from 6 to 10. Indeed, Karibu Sana. Good morning from Mogadishu. That's Galgalu Natif. Bella says, good morning. Good morning. Looking forward to an informative session. Dismas Ombuya, good morning to you. Justy Mo says, good morning. Happy August, indeed. Tuned in from Bonnie Lake. Latiff and CT Joe Mungai says hi. Remove tribal kingpins from their politics. Until then, our goose will continue cooking. Wololo. Okay. Look for two geniuses, they say, from KCPE and KCSE to have that conversation. Many people online today. Career Isaac, Dennis Kipto, Bernard Moemi, Isaac Babji. So many of you. Can't get to all of you. But we see you. Karibu.
Everybody, welcome. City?
Yes, please.
Uh-huh.
We're still in the country of
Somalia.
Yes. Details. Population around 12 million. But you get
who counted and when?
The population is around 12 million. Now.
The lies.
How many do you want them to be?
Who counted?
Now.
When was the last time a census was conducted in Somalia?
It's called rough estimate.
What are they using to estimate?
Good Lord in heaven.
The number of people who are there.
Are they talking about the Somali people, or people who are inside Somalia?
Inside. Because this is a country that one could argue has more people in the diaspora.
Sips tea.
Yes.
You're not all right. It's been established. Yeah,
the population of Somalia is 12 million.
City, I beg. Don't be listening to this man too much. I beg, read your this thing. Leave it alone.
So tell us, again, population 12 million.
You know that walk from the car park to the building?
Does a thing on the guy.
Cold does things to people.
But even you see, population of Somalia 12 million.
How many do you want them to be? Oh, yeah, say your own now.
I understand what he's saying. And part B of what I was saying was perhaps this is one of those countries where the population of this country in the diaspora is more than the population of the people who are actually in the country. It is very likely. Because there is nowhere on this planet you will go to where you will not find people whose origins are from that particular part of the world.
Yes.
It's actually referred to officially as the Federal Republic of Somalia. Federal. Okay? Capital. Mogadishu.
Right.
Though others would say, every federal state would tell you they have their own capital. Now, of interest, this country has a magnificent coastline.
It does.
Kenya talks about beaches, sand dunes, blah, 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 blah. Again, it is established. It has the longest coastline on the continent. There are those who argue on the planet. Just coastline namna hii, beach na kadhalika.
Tuendelee hivyo.
It is 3,000 kilometers. Mingi sana kilometer.
Wow.
It's very, very long. All right. A proverb for today. This one, yesterday we talked about men. Today we'll talk about women.
Okay.
Okay?
On Monday we talked about women.
All right.
Men and women. Okay.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
About Monday was about marriage.
Okay. All right, then let's bring in children, shall we?
Okay.
Let them not be excluded from this. When a grown-up falls, children laugh. When they fall, they cry.
When a grown-up falls, children laugh.
Man, they laugh and laugh and laugh.
When they fall,
they cry.
They cry.
Okay.
Yeah. Wacha tutasikia. Let's talk about the headlines.
Ruto reads the Riot Act. He was a man bothered yesterday. That's on the front page of the Standard. An angry and tough-talking president locks out cabinet ministers. You've come late. Just stay where you are or go back to where you came from. PSs and top state officials for turning up late to his meeting at State House, and warns clueless members of his administration that they will soon be on the chopping board, something, if they do not deliver services to Kenyans. So I've warned you. Just be knowing. But it was clear yesterday he was not happy. Also, on the front page, President's new radical education reforms. There are 10 of them, and we'll go through them in a bit. The DCI is to probe the Londiani crash fund scandal. Okay, now, 13 million? Abi, how many million?
It was reported exactly 14.2 million
there you
elsewhere.
Go. Did not know where it went. We also saw a letter from the UDA Secretary General, Cleophas Malala.
Saying what?
Talking to his people, said, excuse me, the county governor for Kericho, you people should tell us, where did this money go to? We need to keep a clean image before Kenyans and before our party members. You people should be able to tell us. We also came out in solidarity for those who lost their lives. If you people have touched anything anywhere, please, I take God beguna.
Where?
Just tell us, or you return it.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
We saw some of those things coming out yesterday. All right. Many things happening here. We also see on the front page of The Nation how school will change. The Working Party has delivered again some more information. We'll look at those details. KRA update system to net new hefty taxes. And in the tickers, sweetener, tea firm offers locals 560 million shillings shares. The drug taking women by storm. There's something like that. And the question, should faith matter when raising children? Amanda Mano, father to bury 2 sons killed by police in Kisumu. It's a sad one. And Riot Act, globetrotting and unpunctual CSs upset Ruto. He's not having it. So that's what it looks like for these two.
Okay. Sasa. State eyes billions stashed abroad in extradition rules. This is the front big story on the Business Daily today. Kenya has moved to relax extradition rules in proposals aimed at making it easier to bring individuals wanted in other countries for crimes such as stashing ill-gotten wealth abroad to justice. Under the changes proposed to the anti-money laundering, combating terrorism, financing and extradition laws, a fugitive being sought by a foreign state, including from the Commonwealth, may agree to extradition, eliminating the need for lengthy extradition proceedings. So, country is looking for you. Country can negotiate with you directly. Then you just tell the AG, all right, these guys have written to you that they want me. I'm here. I want to go. Okay, let's don't have to go to court. A fugitive criminal being sought by a requesting state may consent to be extradited to that requesting state without conducting formal extradition proceedings. That's a big one. Next headline. Now, remember, we had the PS for ICT and the CS for ICT here, and they were telling us about the 25,000 Wi-Fi hotspots plan, and they already have rolled out many free Wi-Fi hotspots, right? The free government Wi-Fi hotspots at Nairobi market have been hit by outages weeks after being launched in a major setback to a plan to roll out 25,000 centers around the country. A spot check at the various markets in the city this week showed the internet had gone out, in some cases for months, and where it exists, its range has been weakening, much to the frustration of traders. Merchandisers who spoke to the Business Daily during a series of location visits to City Market, Modhurwa and Wakulima markets said the project, unless urgently rescued, was painting the government in bad light. So these guys of Business Daily went to the City Market. The spot check showed that devices were connecting to the router, but there was no connection of the router to the internet.
Oh, wow.
Such incidents happen mostly when the subscription has not been renewed by way of payment or when there is downtime by the provider on the service. In response to the concerns, ICT CS Elidowalo blamed market associations for reneging on their part of the deal, which was to foot recurrent expenditure such as payment of electricity. We had a deal. We will bring this thing to you. You guys just pay electricity. Okay? Stima too. Hapa. You too. Now, the market people are not doing it. That could just bring the whole plan to. Ticker headlines. KRA updates system to effect new taxes. You read that in The Nation. CECs flagged for suspect cash in foreign accounts. County government officials suspected of stealing and stashing cash offshore forced the Kenyan investigative agencies to seek foreign assistance in recovering the loot. Millers, AFA clash on wheat imports delay. Wheat flour millers have warned of a further rise in the cost of chapati unga and its products such as bread in coming months on diminishing domestic stocks, blaming the regulator for delays in approving imports. You want to bring wheat? You guys are playing games. Now, mukate tapanda. City, as we wait for bei ya mandazi kupanda, what's on the star?
Top right-hand corner in teal green, 40 million deal. Arrest warrant issued for suspect in fake tender case. This one is a really interesting story because it involves the NIS.
Yes.
How somebody impersonated an officer of NIS, how they managed to do what, maneuver where, and how they've not been attending court case. Every time they're supposed to be in court, they never attend, nothing happens. So decided this woman should be arrested. The picture of a lady here and the picture, a lady called Joy Wangari Kamau, Elias, Patricia Mareka.
She's the NIS person?
She's the
imposter.
She's the person who has been taken to court.
Okay.
On these matters.
That's an interesting story. Abu, you'll read nicely.
I will read the story and tell you.
That's a nice, that's like a juicy story.
Very brave person. Because it's actually a bold. It's a crime. Very bold indeed.
Okay,
and then on the
sisi ni watu wa intelligence.
Yes, sasa kadri here. Left corner, picture of the interior CS. Ruto fires warning shot of laxity, bars late CS and PSs. Okay, this story I think we've been told. Meeting held, performance contracting, blah, 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 blah. Some people came at the time they thought was appropriate. And they were told, where?
Nakuru traffic.
You will take those jokes somewhere else. You're not coming in here. All right. Dangerous move. Stop state from withdrawing our security, Azimio. I need to ask this question. What do these people need this security for? I mean, government.
Which people?
All these politicians, all these people.
All these people. I've never understood.
All. I mean.
Especially, like a first-time member of parliament. Juicy, you are Okoh doing campaigns on a motorbike.
Yes.
You get to parliament, you hold a Bible like this, you have a police officer.
What's this for?
Why?
The driver thing I get. No, that one I get. Okay, you need to be driven, I get. Traffic thing I get. But
policeman.
What do they need security for?
You're an endangered
What are they afraid of?
As you've been elected, you're an endangered species.
So can we then ask the question, what have you done?
Or what do you intend to do that you might need protection from?
What's this thing? Because does this not border on madness? We need security. We need security. We need security. We need security.
I don't think it borders on madness. I think it's well in the waters of madness, you see. Crazy.
How can so much noise be made about security?
Then when you take it away, you start shouting.
No. I really need to understand what they need the security for.
Oh, it's a good question.
It is, really.
Right.
We take a break?
Let's take a break.
Okay. It's time for that traffic break. It's 25 minutes to 7. Why do they need security?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Traffic on Jogger Road, it's getting out towards Landis. As you get to that junction at Kamkunji, that's where it's going to pack a punch. Getting into the city, not too bad on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Dennis Aseto did say that traffic was not too bad today. Maybe one of the few things that he did say. But getting towards the Pangani underpass, you will see it's getting through towards the CBD. Not too crazy. On the Northern Bypass, a little bit here and there. All of this is manageable at this point. We'll probably see things go up in terms of activity closer to 7 o'clock, but Wednesday morning seems to be going along fairly smoothly. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter as you attempt to keep things moving this Wednesday.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Okay, let me tell you how schools are going to change, guys.
Okay.
The Working Party on Education Reforms has come out talking again. They've told us about the system and what it will be. That's what it has been for the last 2 years. But, it seems nice to be able to say it again. New radical education reforms plan. The head of state to personally lead the implementation of key radical reforms expected to redefine the sector, which he says is critical in building the country's human capital resource. Number 1, reduce subjects burden. Subjects for pupils from pre-primary to senior school defined and ranges from 5 to 9. Tops. 9 is tops. This thing of 12 subjects.
Forget it.
Not happening. The CBC school to comprise lower comprehensive school and upper senior school. So, what we have right now, primary essentially will become comprehensive school. Secondary will become what? Senior school. The end of national schools. Decategorization of schools essentially is what they're talking about here. Scrap national, county and sub-county schools and replace them with career what? Pathways.
Right.
STEM, the arts, etc., etc. Revised capitation. We are looking at new rates ranging from 1,170 being the lowest to 22,527 being the highest. So there's been a reduction in capitation, essentially. But across board, that is what it's going to look at. And it caps at 22K.
They're reducing capitation or increasing capitation?
This number...
They want to increase capitation, isn't it?
Shall we use the word rationalize?
Okay, yeah, let's say it like that. Because there is a decrease in some. Remember, this capitation goes all the way from pre-primary through to secondary. So you don't have an increase in everything across board. There's been a reduction in some places and an increment in others. All right? So rationalization is a good word to use.
Those are day school. Then the boarding, there's a little more.
Exactly. So fresh teacher training also to take place. Teachers to undergo a 1-year mandatory retraining to align them with new curriculum. So they will be training whilst doing what? Teaching.
Doing like that.
Exactly. Varsity and college funding to be based on 4 categories, namely vulnerable, extremely needy, and less needy. It is upon those categories that you will then be able to have funding for university. If you do not fall into these categories, then sayonara. Merger of funding boards. All higher education funding bodies collapse to form a tertiary education placement and funding board with directorates. Okay?
No, it's not okay.
No diplomas.
What do you want?
I want the very status that we had retained.
Okay.
Which one?
The one which they're collapsing.
Okay.
No diploma certificates in universities. You want to go to university? You're going to go for a degree. These are the things. Go and do them somewhere else. Phase out non-degree courses in 3 years and create a seamless transition. You go from high school to university to attain a degree. If you are going to attain a diploma or another certificate course, you will go to another tertiary education.
That is a very careless way of dealing with this matter. Careless,
What do you mean?
Absolutely careless.
What do you mean?
I mean, what does it mean? Okay.
What I mean is very simply this. Where is it written that a university can only offer a degree? Where does it say that one cannot go there to be retrained for something they already know to acquire just an additional speciality?
So a postgraduate diploma?
Diploma.
Okay.
Yes.
But that is postgraduate.
Yes, but even then, even if you don't have a degree and you wish to acquire a certain professionality, where does it say that the university should not offer? Because they're removing it completely and saying you cannot then offer.
Because
Is
why not?
Is that what they're saying, or are they saying that universities should focus on
degree.
undergrad and above?
Yeah.
No. They're
And
saying,
if there's anything, maybe postgraduate could come in.
no, they're saying you
But
can.
because universities have now started doing certificates, do you come to which university
Yes.
to do a
Bridging
certificate?
Yes. There is nothing wrong with that. Because the whole point of education is, in my mind, you want to make it as competitive as possible.
Right.
If you are this institution that provides what you call learning,
Yes.
then let someone coming at a certain level and let them see the progression onto the next level within the same institution. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You see, they're making changes in my mind on a subject that does not require change. It requires tweaking so that it is better. That doesn't stop other institutions from coming up that only offer certificate courses or only offer diploma courses. Doesn't stop them. That really is my argument.
Okay. Let me go to number 9 and 10, and then we can continue. Merger of universities. The government is to develop the government is to develop guidelines for amalgamations, right? TSC power shocker. Surrender quality assurance function, cede regulatory powers to a new body, and principals will be answerable to the ministry, not the commission anymore. You see, right now, principals, head teachers are answerable to the TSC.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, no. You will talk to the ministry.
So quality assurance is now a ministry
function.
Exactly.
Will the ministry be able to handle it, really?
Yes. The ministry was handling it until these manenos came up. Remember all those things when you had the provincial director of education, the district director of education. Those were ministry people.
They were.
And when you talk about now, this is the ministry in charge of basic education, but it has no function at all in how the quality is being assured. UTSC employ, deploy. All right? But we ministry, because we're in charge of policy, we're in charge of quality, then we will monitor and enforce quality.
So essentially,
it makes sense to me.
The work of the TSC will be procurement.
Yes.
Yes, more or less.
Work of TSC will be human resource management.
So essentially you're saying that TSC are the ones who do not have the ability to do what the ministry can do.
They were conflicting.
Actually, somebody conflicted them, and you are absolutely right.
Let me tell you something else that's really crucial here. The transfer of teaching staff. Another radical change that will see a number of institutions lose some of its teaching staff is the proposal to have universities that were upgraded from TVETs to progressively transfer services of academic staff. What does that mean? That academic staff who do not meet the requirements of, or rather the requisite qualification to teach in universities, right, will either be sacked or they will be moved to institutions that fit. See, now you've upgraded from TVET to university.
Yep.
But you've maintained your staff.
You still have the TVET staff.
TVET staff. So now what they're saying is we will either move those staff because obviously they don't meet the requirements, or we will sack them.
But you see, if they retain the sort of courses that had previously been there and which were not degree courses, you do not need to sack those teachers.
You don't. But remember that the teaching staff is asked to be teaching at now. Remember that thing we've just looked at now, saying that you can only now teach degree in university. Now
this TVET stuff, you've upgraded from Kenya Polytechnic to Technical University of Kenya,
yes.
All right? But the quality of staff, the qualifications for the teachers is still TVET. And they're saying either upgrade them or move up because you chose to become a university.
And finally, so three more quickly. The reforms team has proposed that all the 7 national polytechnics be rechartered and elevated to technical universities. So don't be dancing here in the middle. Just let's move this thing up.
Right.
VCs and DVCs recruitment under the proposal to be implemented within a year. The appointment of top university management will be done by university councils. All right.
As opposed to
the Public Service Commission right now.
Why do they think that when you elevate a teaching institution to university, you're of necessity making it better?
You're telling it to focus. I think what I'm seeing from this is just basically looking at what has happened to our universities. So you'll find a university is here, it's been focusing on teaching undergrad and above and focusing on research and such kind of thinking and development. But then they saw there's cheap money. So let's open up a small business course here, offer certificate. They just became...
It was a money-making scheme.
Yeah, it just became a money-making scheme. So universities stopped focusing on what they have actually admitted students to come and do. And they've just started looking at how else can we make money to make ends meet. So open up a new certificate course called, Facebook management certificate. Get people to come. They come here and they study for a year and then they go.
And we say no. And finally, open and country universities, the operationalization of open universities should be done within 1 year. In fact, President Ruto will today grant charter to the institution to be based at the Konza Technopolis. The team also proposes to overturn the law requiring establishment of at least one public university in each county. So they're saying it's not necessary to do that.
It's not necessary to establish one public university
in each county.
It is not necessary. Okay.
they want to overturn that because remember it was in law.
You had too much thing. You had too
but
many
then
things
now
going
you
on.
realize there's a public university in each county. Everybody's offering everything. You have some degree courses that are not being taken up. It was just, they said, a waste of resources and time.
I don't think I quite agree. Because if they say what they're saying, then they should actually provide, I'm sure they do probably somewhere, the evidence that what they're saying is actually true. You see, it may have even begun as something political, okay? But what possibly can be wrong with bringing education near the people? What possible reason could you give?
Nothing, honestly.
Because the establishment of these institutions spur economic development. Forget just the education that they provide. They change the entire face of the place where they're established. It is a useful thing to have. And from what I've seen from these public universities that we have, yes, they may be nestled in one particular geographical area, but Kenyans from all walks of life go there. You know, there is something about coming up with suggestions to bring about change. Ostensibly change that would make things better. I don't seem to be hearing it. There are spots where I feel, this one, again, my thinking, of course. I'm sure they deliberated long hours, and these are experts in this field, and they've deliberated for the longest hour. But remember, my bone of contention begins with one point. All the other groups that have been set up to study these same situations, is there somewhere in this entire thinking and operation where we are saying, given what was talked about earlier on, these are the things we implemented, these are the things we left out, and these are the things we feel now should be worked on? Or are we coming up with something completely new and ignoring everything else that other people said earlier on regarding the same subject?
Please. The report is about 350 pages long. Okay?
I'm going to look for it and I'm going to read it.
I've shared it with you. Just read it. And then now come and say, these guys did not do this, or these guys did.
I am going to read it, and I'm going to come back and give you my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Yes. 350 pages, even.
It's a short thing. It's a very short thing. I mean, you do it in just one sitting.
Where? Where?
Is that not so?
It is so.
I'll probably do it in 3 sittings.
Bas. There's an interesting story that you are going to read to us. Before you get there, let me tell you another one here. Pastor Paul Mackenzie was in court yesterday and he was shouting, Haki yetu, Haki yetu, Haki yetu, leading the other 29 co-accused. Suspected cult leader Paul Mackenzie and his 29 accomplices yesterday disrupted court proceedings to protest their continued detention without trial. The defendants started chanting Haki yetu, clamoring for their rights as soon as they realized that the state was going to make another application to hold them for another 47 days. For more than a minute, Mackenzie and his supporters staged a massive protest to demand their rights. It took the intervention of their lawyer, Wycliffe Makasembo, who pleaded with them to allow the court proceedings to continue and assured them that their rights are secured. Shanzu Senior Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikanda asked the defendants to remain calm. They had started protesting as soon as Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Jami Yamina, stood up to address the court. Yamina said Mackenzie's wife, Rhoda Maweyu, was blaming her husband for her troubles with the state. However, he said the state concurred with the social investigation report that Maweyu should be given further counseling. She needs counseling. This one, she needs a little bit more of psychosocial support. The prosecutors also noted that there was no reason to arrest the woman until or unless circumstances change. When Makasembo rose to address the court, he said Mackenzie and his associates are being forced to wear prison uniforms while in custody. Prison uniforms are for people who've been convicted and they are serving prison sentences, not for people on remand who have not even been charged. This is a mistake, he said. He further claimed the police are forcing his clients to go through a forced parade and sign blank documents, also alleging that an unknown person dressed in a buibui used to conduct the illegal parade, which he said was being done without due process. Yeah, they also complained about being forced to leave themselves in buckets and being mixed with convicted prisoners. Makasembo asked the court to bar the government officials from threatening the defendants, saying they are to be charged with any crime. He also asked the court not to allow the police to continue detaining his clients, asking for at least 3 days to respond to the state's application to keep the suspects in custody for another 47 days. In some way, in terms of human rights, they also have their human rights, and they are guaranteed and preserved. Why is the state wanting to hold them for another 47 days? Explained. Because they are...
Remember what we talked about last week, and we're looking at the process of the exhumation and the process of autopsies, and all of this has taken place.
Yes.
This is all part of the investigation. And just from what I understood from readings of some of the prosecutors here, that until and unless this has been concluded, how do I take a case then to court without the evidence in as complete form as possible?
Right.
Because exhumations still continue to, and these individuals have been linked in one way or another on suspicion to these crimes that have been committed.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So that is the explanation that they're giving in terms of, look, until and unless we've finished with
investigations,
this initial investigation,
we cannot commence a charge. Okay. None of that explains why you need to detain them. Why must they stay in detention?
What's your guarantee that should you let them out, for example, on bail or anything else, that they will then not disappear?
Bail is a constitutional guarantee.
Absolutely,
okay?
It is. Yes.
Now, it is the job of the police service, because the investigators work with the police. It is the job of the police and the local administration to ensure that these people keep coming. So you can be released on bond, and then you're told every Thursday report to the chief's office.
Sure.
Or every so often come to court. Are they flight risks? Prove to me that these people are flight risks.
Or better still, there is the little matter of actually keeping them safe. It may not be said so, but if people feel that they are the reason why many of them have lost loved ones, their being out on bail may cause them a great deal of harm.
Why this 29?
If you've been accused and harm has been adduced, for most people you will be guilty. They will not wait for other proof that you're responsible for the problems that they're facing. But that is not what is being presented.
No, it's not.
I am merely shooting the breeze and I'm giving alternative perspectives here. But the truth of the matter is that the law should not be emotional. And
that's exactly what I was going to say, because here the nature of this whole situation has elements of their emotion, heavy emotion. There's the words that come in as heinous, there's horrific.
For me,
it plays something on your heart. Unfortunately, though, that is it's swimming in the waters of the law. What the law says that you should be, that you are required to do for individuals.
For me, it is not emotion. For me, it's police doing what police always love to do, and I've talked about this many times. Police will want to arrest you, and for police to punish you is to keep you in cell. Taking you to court is secondary. For them, they believe that they hold you responsible for this action, and they put you in cell, and that's it.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Siti.
They are not coming here to say, all those reasons that we are giving. If you ask the police officers, if you ask the national administration, what they are doing is they are punishing. They are jailing Mackenzie. Yes. We will lock up Mackenzie and he will never come out. That's what the CS said. This is the thinking that is behind this. And it's unfortunate. Yes, we can look at it and see, Mackenzie, yes, 600 people and all those things, maybe he deserves. But no. Because this thinking is what makes you be arrested today and police continue going to court and saying, we still have
but we're still investigating.
And they hold you in detention for long.
Also remember, if we focus on Mackenzie, we will not focus on what it is the state ought to have done to prevent this. Because that, unfortunately, in my mind, is at the center of this story. You are telling me that an operation such as the one we keep reading about was in existence.
Also these folks, they as ugly as it may sound, they actually play the role of scapegoating for government.
Yes.
Truth be told.
Sio watu wako ndani. Unaona? And then what? No. This, like you said, it's scapegoating. It's trying to divert our attention, keeping us constantly in this drama of bringing these guys to court and taking them back home.
Not the whole story. Yeah. How could this have happened?
And we didn't know, or we knew and we ignored
Yes,
it.
exactly. Because So long as the police have done their bit in putting Mackenzie behind bars, we're not going to keep asking, okay, before he was put in, how on earth was he going about all these things for all these years? And you're telling us you are not aware. How? Now that question we don't ask enough. And that's the question we ought to ask. How? Fine. We understand. There's a guy called Mackenzie. We see bodies. We know. How? How did it get to this?
Under your watch.
Yes. How did it get to this? That is the question.
That's true. Tell us that story, City.
This story began in 2018. It's a very interesting, complex story of individuals. It was a larger scheme, but the ones who now got caught in this dragnet was when they pushed their luck a little bit. There were individuals who understood and crafted a scheme, a very grand scheme. It was a tender scheme. They'd come up with government tenders, approach people and tell them that they were in a position to be able to help them get this tender.
All right.
Really sensitive tenders, like for security, military security, all sorts of things. And people would pay. Now, this particular case revolves a certain gentleman called Charles Kifi. Charles Kifi was caught in this. 40 million shillings later, okay? 40 million shillings later is when he realized, and no, let me just be precise. 40 million shillings later, many laptop computers valued at 96 million shillings, this man, meaning after all this, when this guy realized, wait a moment, this is something's not quite working.
So this guy was approached by people.
We can help you get tender.
We can help you get a tender to supply computers for NIS,
blah, 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 blah. These guys
whatever.
provided tender documents, which were false, as it turned out.
Okay.
They provided everything. And the clincher was all these meetings about this would take place in government offices.
Right.
So you come into an office which is supposed to be the mother ministry for that particular tender.
And you enter into a boardroom.
And you enter a boardroom and you meet people and you talk.
Right.
And they tell you I'm so and so. Many of them were aliases, alias.
Director of
the director so and so. There's a major somebody or the other. There's so and so and so and the other. And then it turned out it was all smoke.
So did he give them the 40 million shillings or did he supply equipment to them?
No, supplying is also supplied, but money also exchanged hands. So he went to court. Now, the person who was the center of this is this lady whose name I mentioned earlier, Joy Wangare Kamau, alias Patricia Murek. She's not alone. She was the four others, all of them are with aliases. Okay? There's one Eric Otieno, alias Colonel Koech. Don't joke with Kenyans. There's Frederick Mangala Mohanji, alias Douglas Simiyu. Then there's Joy Wangare, Kamau alias Patricia Mareka, and James William Makoha, alias Major George Nyapindi. It was a well-oiled machinery, and they all knew their roles. Now, this matter has been adjourned. We talk about adjournment time to time because this lady, Joy Wangare, has been unwell. Now, they needed time to authenticate her unwellness. At some point, she said she had a back problem, had been to Nairobi hospital. There was documentation. Yes, indeed, they said these documents seem authentic. She was really unwell. She had a problem. Sometimes they said she had a mental problem. We went to Mathare. Indeed, she had been to Mathare even before this incident happened. Now, the problem is this. When you have a group of people who have planned this thing so well, you can't help but think they must have even planned these things ahead of time.
Even the Mathare and
the Mathare, yes, ahead of time.
Back problems can occur when you want it to happen.
Long before. So when you say, I've had this lingering
bad problem.
It's been lingering for
all
some time.
Those things have happened.
Yes.
Hey, keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Good morning. Time for the news, 7 a.m.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of Spice FM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asato. The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms has proposed the scrapping of the 4-tier clustering of public secondary schools in favor of a career-oriented categorization dividing schools into three. In its final report presented to President William Ruto, the Professor Raphael Munavu-led team recommended three broad clusters, namely STEM, social science, and arts and sports science. The proposed model will mark a departure from the prevailing classification of public secondary schools into national and subnational groups, with the former category considered giants attracting cutthroat competition from across the country. The committee recommended that CBC be implemented with modifications and the workload on pupils be reduced. President William Ruto, who agreed to the recommendations, said this is because the implementation of the first phase of the reforms dealt with most issues that had been raised concerning the curriculum.
I am very happy that today the country is no longer restive about CBC because we have addressed all the concerns around what will happen to our children. All parents, all Kenyans are very particular, very emotive, if I may say, about their children and what happens to their children. And therefore, it was necessary for us to settle the subject of the education of our children early. And we didn't even have to wait for the full report. I think we kept on implementing the report even as we were agreeing on the issues.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on his part expressed confidence that if the recommendations of the panel were implemented, these will contribute to a better education sector in the country.
There is a lot of synergy in the educational sector because of good leadership that is based on continuous consultation and engagement with all the stakeholders. So, Your Excellency, I want to assure you that this team has done a good job. And I'm sure that the recommendations they will come up with, if they are implemented, it will sort out the many challenges that we have had in the education sector.
Legislators are on the spot for allegedly failing to actively hold the executive accountable in the National Assembly. Led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and Minority Leader Opiyo Ndai, the House leadership faulted legislators for failing to exhaustively utilize the time set aside to grill cabinet secretaries on government budgets and policies during question time in Parliament. They urged the legislators to take advantage of the reintroduction of question time to probe the utilization of public funds. The matter was a subject of discussion during the debate on the Global Parliamentarians Against Corruption report. A section of legislators supported proposals to formulate laws to criminalize corruption. A National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has ordered the House Majority and Minority leaders to contemplate overhauling the Public and Petitions Committee on the grounds that its members are absconding duty. Wetangula noted that members of the committee, chaired by Kitui East MP Nimrod Mbai, were a no-show during a parliamentary session, and their absence raised concerns among their colleagues. Wetangula added that the committee's progress has been hampered by the absence of its members, resulting in a backlog of unresolved petitions. And senators have resolved to extend the tenure of the 11-member committee probing cult activities and deaths at the Shakahola forest in Kilifi County. It followed a request from the ad hoc committee chaired by Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana after mass graves were discovered in the forest. The committee asked for an extra period of time, not exceeding 30 days, to enable it to conclude its findings on the macabre deaths. And the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with county government and with the support of WHO, UNICEF and other partners, will from tomorrow to 12th of this month be conducting an oral cholera vaccination campaign. The campaign aims to reach approximately 1.5 million people above 1 year old in 6 targeted counties of Nairobi, Wajir County, Mandera, Marsabit, Homa Bay, Machakos and Garissa. The ministry conducted training sessions for county and sub-county teams in the targeted areas to ensure effective implementation of the vaccination campaign. The community members, parents and caregivers are strongly urged to take advantage of this life-saving opportunity and ensure they get vaccinated, along with ensuring their children receive the vaccine. And the United States government has lauded Kenya for deploying a multinational force to help restore order in Haiti. The Caribbean nation is suffering from a surge in gang violence and is in deep security, political, human crisis. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Alcedo. Good morning.
It's now that we see some movement on the Thika Superhighway. It's coming in from Tusker Village past the Garden City Mall out towards the Pangani Underpass. So that's slowly building up. You use your service lanes and it'll take you through without too much of an issue. Movement coming in on the northern bypass, and we'll see that spill over towards Ruaka and then Limuru Road into the city. Kiambu Road wants to come out at Muthaiga Square. That's happening, but there's traffic that's built up there as well. It started early on James Gishu, and there's traffic at the Drift as you go towards Wayaki Way. And Jogo Road spilled traffic over to Landis now, and that's heavy going towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. And this is Langata Road, already busy getting towards Uhuru Highway. So Wednesday morning looks like it's going to be busy. This is well before traffic hour. Let's see what happens then. Where are you? Are you stuck anywhere? Or you find a good route? Let us know, and we'll talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
7 minutes
only
after
way
7.
to start
How are
your
you
day.
doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. If you're just joining us on KTN Home or on YouTube or Facebook or Spice FM, welcome to the second day of August 2023. I mean, the month is moving, and what do they say? Zinasonga and all those other things. It's holiday season.
It is.
Right?
It's the holiday and adventures Ziko kwa Go TV kwa wingi. We're not leaving anyone behind because we have good programs for children of all ages. We've got you covered like that. If you have a preteen, you can watch. If you have children under the age of 5, you can watch as well. These shows air weekdays from 4:15 on the Disney Channel. They can also enjoy the adventures of Henry Danger every Saturday and Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on Nickelodeon Channel 87 on Go TV Value. Download the Go TV app or dial *423# and get into a fantastic world of entertainment for children.
Okay. Have you gone to NairobiMarathon.com and registered for the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon? You should, because this marathon will be staged on the 29th of October. It's a Sunday. It'll be happening across the country. In Nairobi, the main event will be along the Southern Bypass. Start and finish from Uhuru Gardens. Only 2,000 shillings needed to register and start preparing yourself for the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. 20th edition. This is one of the biggest city marathons that we have across the continent. And this time it happens not only in Nairobi, but in several parts of the country as well, physically, and across the globe virtually. This year's Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon takes place in October, 29th of October. Register on nairobimarathon.com. Owen Baya is the Member of Parliament for Kifi North constituency in Kilifi County. He is also the Deputy Majority Leader in the National Assembly. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Latiff. Thank you.
That is the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Oh, okay. Pleasure to be here.
It's good you're dressed for the seat. In hot red.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
As a Deputy Majority Leader, you have a big role that you're playing. And we'll be talking about that.
Yeah.
As a Member of Parliament from Kilifi County, you also have a big role that you have to play in that area in terms of looking at what's happening in development going towards Kilifi. Yeah. And we also have to talk about Shakahola and the ongoing investigations, the ongoing operation of exhumation, of postmortem identification, and of course counseling of those who have reported their loved ones missing.
Okay.
But to welcome you to the conversation,
thank you.
C.T. Muga has the day's proverb. Every week he has a number of proverbs from different countries. This week's proverbs are from
The Federal Republic of Somalia.
Federal Republic of Somalia.
Yes, the country we refer to as Somalia is actually the Federal Republic of Somalia. When a grown-up falls, children laugh. When they fall, they cry.
When a grown-up falls, children laugh.
Yes.
When they fall, they cry.
Actually, yes.
What's your interpretation of it? What do you think the Somalis are saying?
Now that it's not expected that an old man should fall, but when it does, it is probably a mistake he has made or something that, being careless or something like that. And therefore, people will give him his take of it, that is, laugh at him. But a younger person is a learning curve, and therefore, it's not expected that you allow them to fall. You allow them to grow uprightly, and that they still have a future, and therefore you need to be sad when a younger person falls. My interpretation.
It's a good one, City.
There are things you consider to be unlikely, and so when they happen, they cause maybe consternation, but you are left wondering. They leave you with questions. But when something that happens is something that you consider normal, then of course the opposite is true. Nothing really surprises you. Now, when an older person falls, there are people who will consider it tragic.
Yeah.
But you see, for a child, an older person is a symbol of very many things, and they don't expect that person to fall. A child will fall, and because they play a great deal, so they will fall a great deal. So when an older person falls, it's not just consternation. They assume that this grown person, like now a child, is like them because they are the ones who are accustomed to falling. So, Akukama Sisi, this person is exactly like us. So, put it this way, it is something that equalizes people, but the responses are different because their experiences or their lived experiences are different. Yes. So your lived experience will educate you and probably point you in the direction of how it is you should interpret a situation.
Okay. Good one. For purposes of understanding where you come from, please introduce us to Kifi North constituency. Where does it start? Where does it end? What area does it cover? How many people do you represent?
Okay, when you're from Mombasa and you're approaching Kilifi, one of the things that you will see is a Mombasa cement factory. So when you start seeing Mombasa cement factory, then you're actually in Kifi North. You'll have covered probably like 500 meters inside Kifi North, coming from Mombasa. And then you traverse, you get to Kilifi town, where that's the center of the city of my constituency. So when you get to Kifi North, then now you take the Mombasa Malindi road again, you get to Gede. Gede, then you go to Watamu on the other side, but you still move on that road until a place called Msabaha. Msabaha is probably 5-6 kilometers away from Malindi. And you have covered Kifi North. So Kifi North has 7 constituencies. 7 wards. The Watamu, one of the tourist resorts in this country, famed tourist resort, is in my constituency. So you get to Watamu, you go up to a hotel called Jacaranda and get up to very close to a place. You go up to a place called, a fishing village called Mayungu. And you can drive for like 3 more kilometers, then you are actually hitting Malindi, and that's where my constituency ends. On the other side, we touch Kaloleni and Kilifi South, but we also are very close to Ganze town. So that's basically the geography. It is actually the largest constituency. I think the largest constituency in the coast region. Yes.
And it's quite vibrant. It has the Kilifi town itself. It has Watamu resort. It has the entire coastline, and it has a forest.
It has the longest coastline actually, and bigger part of the Arabuko Sokoke forest is actually in Kilifi North. Yes, and the famous hotels like Hemingway's, Medina Palms, Jacaranda, Tato Bay are all in my constituency.
All your constituents.
Yes.
How far is it from Shakahola?
Probably you need to do around 3 hours to get to Shakahola. So probably around 50 kilometers away from Shakahola. So we're not very far away.
Why 3 hours?
For 50 kilometers?
Because the road may not be very good as you get. Of course, you drive on the Salaget Road, but as you want to get into Shakahola, you find a rough road. Yes.
Are you able to describe
Yes.
what Shakahola is? Are we just talking about large expanses of land, forest? What would you see as you approached Shakahola? First, to get an understanding of what it looks like.
Actually, the word Shakahola is a very Shaka. Mashaka. Mashaka is a Swahili word. Problems.
Yes. Shida mingi.
Shida mingi. So the Giriama don't say Mashaka when it is a big problem. They call it Shaka. So Shaka is a Giriama word for a big problem. Hola is to heal or to get well.
All right.
That's what hola means. So it is you find a solution for a bigger problem. So when you go there, you actually get a reprieve. That is what it means. Kind of a reprieve. Shakahola is that you have been reprieved from a bigger problem. Okay. Yes, that is what Shakahola means. Now that Shakahola area is what you would call a Giriama land reserve. That's why you see swathes of huge tracts of land and forest. So you see the Giriama especially, as they settle, they always leave a large part of land unsettled. They say our children and grandchildren, when this land is not enough, they will move there.
Right.
So as you get to a place called Kakoneni, and you move on that as you approach Tsavo Park, you'll see a lot of forest land. But it was land that the Giriama kept aside for future generation, for the future generation,
for posterity.
For posterity. So that was an area that people do not go to easily. Secondly, there are clans. We have around 12 clans among the Giriama community. Around 12 clans. Now these clans, each clan has its own land. In Giriama land, we call them Mali, like Mali. Mali yawa Mbari. You understand?
Mali Mbari Flani.
Yes. So if you go to that area, every Mbari is kind of reserved for a piece of land. You understand? Now that land, the one that is described as Shakahola, belonged to a clan called Amwabaya Mwaro. I think in the reports that you have seen, that word is there. Now, the Amwabaya Mwaro clan is one of the largest clans, and that is their land, their property. Of course, Kenya government will come and adjudicate and give it, but the community knows that this area belongs to this clan.
All right.
Okay. And the Amwabaya Mwaro clan had kept that area as their land, although it falls under one of the big ranches. The government gave it name, that is Chakama Ranch 1, Chakama Ranch 2, Chakama 3, Chakama 4. But that area, Shakahola, belonged to the Mabaya, which is my clan.
Okay.
Yes, which is my clan. I said as a clan elder, because I'm a clan elder, I will go and put things right.
Right.
So that area you find is a huge forest. Yes, specifically left for the future of the Giriama. Of course, Ministry of Lands people have been messing us up and subdividing the land and giving it out. But traditionally, the Giriama, not the Mijikenda specifically, the Giriama would always leave land for their future generation. And that land that was reserved for such. So today, if I ask my father, Dad, this land that we are living on is not enough. So he would tell me, okay, don't worry. If this is not enough, I'll take you to our money. And he will take me there, introduce me to the elders and say, this is our son. Show him a piece of land. He wants to settle down, get married and settle down. Okay. So you'll be shown some land and you start settling there.
So the assumption for Shakahola right now, based on what you've said, is that it's been kept aside.
Yes.
Previously.
Yes.
And the assumption also is that people are not supposed to be in there.
No.
Until clan approval now says, you can now give some to Baya and his people, or you can give some to somebody else.
Yes.
So everybody goes in mind knowing that nothing is really happening in there without clan approval.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
So then it would have been a shock.
Yes.
Perhaps that what we have seen happening in this area has actually happened.
But very much indeed, because you see, this story, when I heard about it, I called one of the elders from our clan and asked him, how did you actually approve this land being given to someone else who is not a member of the clan? You know, but you say with poverty and with, Tamaya Pesa, I think this guy, Pastor Mackenzie, when he was chased away from Malindi, saw an opportunity in that vast land. And approached the elders there and said, I would like to be given this land. Now, in our clan also, in our traditions, there is something called Kurombeka. Kurombeka is you can lease, kind of a traditional way of leasing land. So I can pay you and say, I want to stay here for 5 years. So you are paid like 100,000. I want to stay here. How many acres? What do you want to do? I want to farm. So you give money, but you're allowed. Sometimes you give cows or goats, but you're allowed to use the land. It does not belong to you, but you can use the land for the purpose for which you want to use it. And then after you are done with your purpose, you return the land back. So that is how Mackenzie approached these people, that I've come here to do farming. And if you allow me...
And these are clan elders.
These are clan elders.
Right.
And the clan elders said, yes, if you want to do farming, in our tradition, we don't refuse somebody who wants to grow food. Yes, it's traditional. If you come to my home and say, you have 10 acres, I would like to grow food for my family, can I use, say, okay, give me 1 goat or 2 goats. You can farm for 2 years and feed your clan. But the land does not belong to you. You can feed your family. So that is how he approached the elders. He went there and told them that he would like to farm, and he was told, for every acre, give us 100,000, I think. And I think he paid some money, which he didn't even complete the payment, and therefore he was allowed to go in to farm, because that is how he approached the elders, to go in to farm. And he was told, yeah, you can farm. Yes, because the land is fertile.
Okay.
And then Pastor Mackenzie got opportunity to now stay there. Not because he owns the land.
Okay.
Yes, but because he was given an opportunity, kind of a traditional lease. Yes.
Had the elders vetted him in any way? I mean, are the elders expected to vet somebody who comes and says, you know what, and you can clearly see, one, you are not a Giriama.
Yes.
2, you are not even from our clan.
Yes.
Amboya Mwaro clan.
Yes.
Obviously. So if you're not Amboya Mwaro, you're not Giriama. So you're not even from this side.
Yes.
We don't know you. What steps should the clan elders have taken?
Actually, the clan
to vet and understand this person.
The clan elders should have vetted him properly, and try to find out where he is from. In Jikenda traditions, you can be chased away because you practice witchcraft.
Yep.
Okay. So you can be chased away from your home, and you run away to another place. So ideally, the clan elders should ask you, why are you coming here?
Where are you from?
Where are you from? Why did you leave where you are coming from to come here? What are the issues? Those are the things that you use to vet. Probably this is a bad person coming in to want to live within you. So you will do... He tells you, okay, we come from this village. So what Mzee will say, in that village, I know so and so. So they will want to find out from that end why this person is here. Unfortunately, in this case, I think already people knew something about Mackenzie. He's a pastor and all that, and therefore they welcomed him, because he also came on that strength, just like the missionaries came.
Right. Somebody introduce him to these elders.
Yes, that is something that is you cannot just go to the elders to ask for land without somebody. So he had connections, people who were actually Amabamaro, who were in his church in Malindi, who told him probably we can go and start farming in this area. And therefore, Mackenzie was introduced to the clan, and the clan elders agreed to give him some land for farming. And that is what he asked for, land for farming, not to start a church or anything else, but to farm.
So are there watchers of the land? Are there people who are aware that this is going on in the land, even when now permission has been granted to go in and farm? Are there people who, cast an eye every now and then to see what's going on?
Okay, from the traditional perspective, you see, when you come to lease land in that as temporary, and you're given that land to go and farm, there are certain things that you'll be told. Do not build a permanent house. That is 1. 2, do not plant cash crops. like coconut or cashew nuts, those big plants, you cannot do that. And you can also not give the land to another person. So the elders, is their responsibility to ensure you don't plant like coconut or cashew nut, and you don't put up a permanent house, permanent structure. You'll only do temporary structures, and that is one of the things that is expected of you when you get the traditional lease of land. And the watchers of the land then are expected to watch out that you do not start making the land your own. Yes, by ensuring that they pass to see, he's not building a permanent house, or he is not planting those cash crops, so that you use it for the purpose of growing food for subsistence, for the subsistence of your family, and that is how it's expected to happen.
Okay.
Yes.
So then, from what you're saying, it would then be impossible for some of the things that were happening, from what we've been told, allegedly, to occur, and they were not seen by anybody else.
Actually, you see, the events of Shakahola are mind-boggling, but they can be explained.
Okay.
You can explain this because who are the people who were with Pastor Mackenzie? I had a small interview to understand with locals to understand what it is that happened. And they said, okay, you see, what happens is, I don't know whether any of you have gone to Shakahola to see, but you see, as you pass the road, as you go to Tsavo, there's the road which is called the Salagate Road, Malindi Salagate Road.
Yes.
So when you leave the road, you drive in the interior. Okay, you drive into the interior. It's just a forest. Although there's a dispensary, a very famous dispensary called Shakahola Dispensary. It's been there for many years, And so I asked the young people there, how come you didn't know these things? Now, what they told me is the problem with what was happening in Pastor Mackenzie, this land is large. So you drop somebody at the entry into Pastor Mackenzie's farm. But you see, the farm does not start immediately. So you drive inside the farm, and then now you get the settlement and the farms inside. Now, why was it not easy to know what was happening? Because a lot of the people who came in were not locals. Okay. So you pick somebody, you're a boda rider, you pick somebody at the road. Unaenda kwa Pastor Mackenzie, so you're dropped at the entry. So you are left there. So when you get in there, you never come out.
And so you don't interact with the boda person.
You don't interact with the boda people. And they were not locals. Because if they were locals, people would have said, huyu mtu wangu alienda kwa Pastor Mackenzie. So people would have had the interest to go and say hi to their relatives inside, or we are coming to see our relative inside, or the relative is coming out to go visit his relatives within the area. So everybody who came in to Pastor Mackenzie's got in and never left. You understand?
Yep.
So there was no interaction. They could only send people inside, but there are no people coming outside to report what was happening. And the boda people were also not allowed inside.
By Mackenzie.
So it was very easy to stay secretly within that forest without people really knowing what was happening. But there are certain things that were red flags which people ignored. In the story, I think there's a story about a chief who had given a death certificate. I don't know whether you remember that bit.
Yes.
A death certificate. Now, this death certificate, I think, was for somebody, I think, from Bungoma or something like that. Somebody died, and the people were informed. His people were informed. And when they were informed, they came. Now, for them to get the body, they needed a death certificate. And they informed the chief.
Area chief.
The area chief. And the area chief actually gave a death certificate. But how he didn't supervise to know, was the body removed or was it buried there, is something that still, I think the chief has something to answer about that. And
was it the only death certificate that he issued?
At least we know about that one death certificate. And you see, if people die and there's no death certificate being given, there are no burial permits being given, interestingly, if you look at, I had an opportunity to speak to one person whose children, you remember the first two kids who died, and that's how the story came out. This is an old man who had his family in Shanzu. Now, his son and his wife had moved there, and he had the grandchildren. So the two girls died. and he was informed that his grandchildren had died. So he went there because you cannot bury your grandchildren where it's not their home, because they had gone there to farm. Those were farms, not a home.
Yeah.
So he went to claim the bodies. So he insisted that the children, his grandchildren, need to be taken back to Shanzu for burial. But when he got there, they had already been buried. The day they died, they were buried the same day. So he said they must be exhumed
so that I can go with
They can go with my grandchildren for burial. But his son and his daughter-in-law refused, and that is how that thing came out. How did it come out? Because a local was involved. Yes, a local was involved. But if you look at a lot of the people who died there, they are from upcountry.
Yeah.
And when they die, and these are people who ran away from home, basically they have had issues at home and they have a solace with Pastor Mackenzie. And when they leave home, they have abandoned home and nobody knows anything else about them.
So news of whatever is happening to them, their whereabouts, whether they are dead or alive, is not getting back.
It's not getting
to
back.
their family.
Yes, it's not getting back. And that is how a lot of things. Had Mackenzie's farm had that opportunity of you can get in and get out, then information would have come out. I'll give you another story of a lady I knew. If you get to Malindi, this lady was called Ruth. If you get to Malindi, there's a petrol station called Total. There was a lady there who for many years used to sell.
That petrol station after the roundabout, immediately as you get into Malindi.
Yes.
It's the Malindi petrol station.
The petrol station, yes, there. So there's a small shop, a small tack shop there. You can buy whatever you want to buy, and there's a lady who was always at the counter. It's called Ruth. I know her well because I used to work at Malindi many years ago, and when she came to work in that shop, she was employed almost at the same time when I arrived in Malindi. And that shop had just been opened, so I was a regular there. So I knew Ruth, and she was a young girl, and she grew up, and even she got married. But she came to meet Pastor Mackenzie when she had the church in Malindi. So she started going to that church, and she was one of those people when Pastor Mackenzie's TV, in fact, when you look at Pastor Mackenzie's TVs, the earlier clips, you'll see that lady.
She's in the front.
And as the gospel got hotter, she abandoned her family and left the children with her husband.
Right.
And she was serving God in that church. And when they moved to Shakahola, she moved also there. So she used to have a phone and would once in a while communicate with the family and the children and all that. But after some time, there were no more phone calls. And now they could not reach this lady.
Yeah.
But I think one day she got hold of a phone after 1 year or 2 years and said, mimi niko Shakahola. Talked to one of the friends who used to sell in that shop. Mimi niko Shakahola. And that was the last phone call.
And this is about 2 years after she had moved into Shakahola.
And that was it. And today, the parents are still looking for her. And probably she's one of those people that died.
Whose bodies are there.
Whose bodies are there. And she was Louis or Kamba, one of those. And the parents lost contact, and everybody lost contact. And they were asked, where is this Ruth?
Even her husband.
Even her husband. The children now are big.
Yeah. But there's something I have to ask.
Let's take a break, City. Let's take a break, and then we shall ask this question.
Yes.
The Honourable Owen Baya, the MP for Kifi North Constituency, Deputy Majority Leader in the National Assembly, is our guest this morning. We are talking about trying to understand what exactly has happened in Shakahola and how do we get justice? How do we get closure for those that are looking for their loved ones? 26 minutes to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation. Star 832 hash. Mheshimiwa, you know that one. Star 832 hash.
832 hash.
Yes. This affordable housing project by the government is going to be in all 290 constituencies. You're supposed to go to the State Department for Housing and Urban Development and tell them I've had a conversation with my community, with my county. This is the area for Kifi North where you can come and put up the affordable housing. Have you done that? You're working on it.
We're working on it, although we have already identified the land, and I look forward to it when we will ground break for the first houses. I look forward to it because when I explain to my people about this housing project, everybody thinks it will be done in Nairobi, and they have nothing to do with it. So I keep on telling them that no, it will happen here. and our watch, and you will see it. But they have their doubts. so seeing is believing.
Kabisa.
Yes.
Kilifi North needs to have more than one project. I mean, in Kilifi town itself, you need one. You need to go have one around Gede, in Watamu. You need to have several. So, for people to benefit from this project, go and tell your constituents that they need to register with bomayangu.go.ke.
All right.
That's the only way they'll be able to participate in ownership of those homes. Or they can dial *832#. That's *832#. With that, you register into Bomayangu. When the houses are complete and you've identified a house, then you start your journey towards owning one of those units. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, it's 13 degrees, highs of 19, and we'll see highs of 24 in a partly sunny Nakuru. It's 12 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 17, and we'll see highs of 22 in a partly sunny Eldoret at 14. It's cloudy at 23 in Mombasa, highs of 28, and highs of 28 in Malindi, where it is sunny at 24. 19 and cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 28, and highs of 26 in a cloudy Kakamega at 18. It's a rainy morning in Kampala at 19, highs of 26, and sunny at 24 in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 29. It's 2 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 15, and 28 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 25. It's 21 and cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 31 and lows of 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
The Thika Superhighway traffic coming past the Garden City Mall has reduced significantly, but now we see that survey heading out towards the Pangani Underpass, still busy on Kiambu Road. And we're seeing movement coming out of Westlands. Most folks are heading into the CBD. Jogo Road is busy going towards Landis, and Langata Road also very busy. Some of that will go towards Raila Odinga Way, as we're seeing already, connecting with the traffic that's coming on Gong Road. So it's a busy morning, but manageable from what we see so far. Uhuru Highway will be busy as you're heading into the city. North Airport Road coming in from Cabanas as you head out towards the Eastern Bypass or try to connect with Outer Ring is also busy right now. We're in traffic hour and it's proper. Let's talk Spice FM. KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Majority in the National Assembly. He's telling us we are talking about Shakahola. What happened in Shakahola? How did it happen? Who should be answering questions? Well, Kilifi North is not where Shakahola is. Shakahola is in which constituency? It's in
Magarini.
It's in Magarini, neighboring Magarini constituency.
Yes.
And you've told us that this entire area, the Chakama Ranch, is basically community land for the Giriama people.
Yes.
And the area where Shakahola is for a specific clan, had been earmarked for a specific clan, the Amabwaya Mwaro clan. And you are an elder of that clan.
Yes.
Okay, City, you had a question.
I do have a question. Among the Giriama specifically, even if you buy land, the buying of land is not the beginning and the end, it's the beginning of a relationship.
Yes.
You never really lose touch. Those people more or less become members of your family.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
There are people you relate to, the people you talk to, the people you visit.
Yes.
And you get to know everybody. Now, it's with that in mind that I'm thinking, even when you lease land and you lease a very large portion of it, don't you keep in touch? Don't you find out huyu mwenzetu tulimpatia shamba? Okay? How is he getting along?
Je, amevuna?
Yes. Does he have have problems arisen that we need to sort out?
Yeah.
It's in that spirit of that relationship. Or are we saying that the elders who are involved in this process completely abandoned something which is part and parcel of that particular community?
You see, what Mackenzie did, and which is, if you take time to visit, you will realize that he asked for a huge chunk of land. How do you ask for 800 acres?
To grow food.
Yes, 800 acres. So then you put probably, before you get into where I live, you have to cover 20 acres.
Also.
Before you get to get to where I live. Now, before I come to visit you, I have to really have prepared myself to come in.
You have to travel 40 acres.
You are not going to go back the same day.
The same day. So I think that is what Mackenzie did. He actually blocked himself away from the people and got really deep inside. Even if you were to hire a border to get deep inside where Mackenzie is, it will be very costly for you to do that. So he actually secluded himself away from the people.
So like from where people are dropped to where the homesteads begin is about how many kilometers?
You would cover like 10-20 kilometers to get to where
is quite a distance.
Mackenzie's, and that's why before even they got,
we're basically talking about from
before this security, they had to actually do the road, because you could not easily get there. You couldn't get in. So he secluded himself from every other person. The only thing is, he had, and interestingly, Mackenzie, I think his church, the church, New Life or what?
Good News
Fellowship, had branches not in Kilifi, but they had branches majorly in Kamba, in Machakos, and the Kamba area.
Recruitment hubs.
Yes, and Western, and I think here in Nairobi. So basically, the people who came in like pilgrims, to go for a pilgrimage, the way people would leave Kenya to go to Mecca. So that is how they would live. So you talk to your pastor, and you're in Kakamega, and the pastor of that church tells you, yes, now it is your time now to go and visit our spiritual leader. So now you take a journey. You get to Malindi town. From Malindi now you take a taxi or something you're dropped at the junction to Shakahola. Then you take a boda and get inside, and they drop you, and you have gone for your pilgrimage, and you go meet your spiritual leader inside there. And that is how you realize a lot of the people that died there are either Luyas, Luos, or Kambas. They were majority. The few Giriamas who were there are actually the people who had started the church together in Malindi town. So they moved together. So the few locals are basically the people who they had initially started the church with in Malindi. And therefore, it was not easy for people to trace who has gone in there. Who has... Actually, we knew this thing came out just because there was a local who went to demand for the bodies of his grandchildren. If we hadn't gotten that level, we wouldn't have. And that is when they got there, they saw these emaciated people.
Right.
That's when the public could have known. Not so when we could have known.
People who were emaciated and they were almost dying, and the border guy who had taken these guys found those people who were almost dying and decided to carry them on his border to hospital, and that's where now the other people knew
what was going on. Can we cast some light a little bit further here?
Yes.
Because, and I think when we have the conversation, we can tell the story. But the truth is that in terms of sharing of responsibility for what happened and continues to happen in Shakahola, it cannot just be one person who was allegedly perpetrating certain crimes inside there, right?
Yes.
Because you've said borders would drop people at the entrance. They would go in, they would not come out. It was known. Somebody's children died. Somebody died. A chief administered a death certificate. That incident was known that there were people inside here. There were stories, because it is, we know how communities are. Something happens, people will speak about it. People know. There are communities who are living on the periphery of this Shakahola, is it not? People know. Borders also, we know that they spread information very quickly. How is it that so many people are entering into an area, right?
Yes.
They do not come out.
Mm-hmm.
There is government administration in this area.
Yes.
And yet, nothing.
You see, one of the things that we need to focus on is a chief knew.
Mm-hmm.
A chief knew someone had died inside there.
Yes.
And if you are not clear about how that person died, the first thing is you report to the police.
Mm-hmm.
And the police would want to pick that body and conduct a postmortem.
Yep.
Especially if a person dies at home.
Yep.
Today, if you have a relative and dies at home, what is the first thing you do?
It's a police case.
It's a police case.
Yep.
You cannot bury that person until you get clearance.
Yep.
Now, this person had died at home. The first thing the chief should have done is to have told these people reporting the death before he issues a death certificate is please go report to the police. Because that is normal.
Yep.
When somebody dies at home, you don't bury.
Yep.
You report to the police, and the police now will clear you, say, this person can be buried because the hospital said it died of natural causes. That is one of the first glitches that we get. Why did the chief issue a death certificate and a burial permit without alerting the police? And probably the police could have been alerted, but what did the police do? But again, you ask yourself, where is the next police station?
Actually, yes, where is the next police station?
The next police station. Probably the next police station is where there is this college, I forget the name of this place, Baolala. Baolala.
Is it a police post or a police station?
It's a police post.
About
police
how
post.
far is it?
That should be around 10 kilometers away from the junction.
From the junction.
Yes. Baolala is a small town that's coming up because there's a college, there's a TVET there. And a lot of people, by the way, go there to buy land. So you find that. Then from Baolala, the next town is Kakoneni. I think in Kakoneni you'll find a police. It's still a police post in Kakoneni.
Kakoneni is slightly bigger.
Yes. So that is the next town. You've been Kakoneni, that is the next town.
Yes.
Because if you drive, you get to Kakoneni. Then from Kakoneni now you go to Baolala. Then from Baolala it's just open space until you get to Salagate area where the hotels, these tourist hotels are. You get there. So that is one of the things. So probably in that area, many people die at home and they are buried without notifying the police. So that is a possibility. But I think in normal intelligence setups, in areas like that, you expect one or two people from the intelligence to be able to visit that area, know what is happening and gather information. So there was a laxity on their part.
And that's the question, Mheshimiwa, because if you just think
on their part
about the coast and the coastal area,
yes,
this is an area which had not many years ago, not even 10 years ago, had many serious issues of radicalization.
Yes.
And therefore, intelligence, police, and everybody, security agencies are on high alert on issues and around radicalization.
Yes.
Pastor Mackenzie was on the radar of security agencies because of what he was preaching, and especially coming so soon after the debacle with the Huduma number, where even the president himself mentioned that there's a pastor here who's telling people Huduma number is the number of the beast 666. So that means intelligence was on high alert around Pastor Mackenzie. When all these people are arriving in Malindi and they're asking for directions to Shakahola and they are boarding matatus or border borders to head towards Shakahola, surely
is that a red flag?
All these government apparatus can see. We cannot say that maybe they did not see. Maybe
to mention is the proximity of Shakahola to Tsavo East Park is quite close. And you have a lot of KWS rangers in that area, that take care of the animals. The Galana Kulalu is not far away from there. The Galana Kulalu farm actually is not far away from there. It's quite close. So government mandarins and security agencies, they patrol that part of the land, but it is on their weakness. I don't know what, but their laxity, especially, that they did not see this. And you see, well, that area is sparsely populated, by the way. That is actually one of the problems that you get there, because if you today take you to Shakahola, you'll ask me, where is the village? Where is the village? Where are the people? Because you will only see forest, and you'll see one house here, another house there, another house very far distance. Because the land is large, is vast. But there is even a primary school where children go. It's there. So I can say that government agencies that were supposed to pick information and relay that information slept on their job.
Mheshimiwa,
yes.
When somebody's under the radar of the government,
yes,
we have more than ample evidence in the public domain.
Yes.
There was an Islamic preacher who was very, very vocal in his radicalization. And he was known.
Yes.
Not only was he followed, but he was shot in a moving vehicle, and he is the only one who died.
Yes.
Meaning, he was targeted. They did not. There were many people in the car. They did not wish to kill anyone.
Yes.
We had a case where we were told of 2 individuals who were in Shimulatewa committee because of terrorist issues.
Yes.
And supposedly they left.
They had attempted to escape.
Yes.
They were found.
Yes.
When we had a terror attack within Nairobi, within a very short time, our intelligence and security forces were able to triangulate and to figure out whose phone was used where and who did what and why they had been watching some of these people over a period of time.
Yes.
When there was a huge drug haul some years ago in Malindi, if you listen and read the stories about it, the government had been aware, they were watching.
Yes.
They waited for the right time to pounce when they had known who played what role, who was doing what. They were watching.
Yes.
Somebody like Mackenzie brought himself to the attention of the government with his utterances.
Yes.
The government doesn't let people like that slip off their radar. Because they understand the psychology of people like that. And they'll keep tabs on you. You may not know, but they'll keep tabs on you. How this one slipped over this long period of time, it is a puzzle.
If it slipped.
If it slipped, I like that. You see, Pastor Mackenzie was in Malindi. He set up a church. When he came, he set up a church in Malindi. And the first thing he did was to tell kids not to go to school. And he ran into trouble with actually the current county director of education in Kilifi, the county director of education, Veronica, who was now the Malindi sub-county education director. And she went there and pulled the children out. And that is the first time Mackenzie's radicalization was noticed. Then I think the former MP for Malindi then, current CS, Aisha Jumwa, knew about it and went and had a confrontation with Mackenzie. And eventually Mackenzie was arrested and brought to Malindi court. And I think they didn't see any problem with it. And he was arrested twice.
That is the point.
Yes.
How could they not have seen a problem with him?
Then this guy just disappears. The first question would be, intelligence people will be asked, where is he? Where is this guy? What is he doing?
But Mheshimiwa, again, disappear.
Yes.
He didn't disappear.
He didn't.
Everybody who was arriving in Malindi was going to Mackenzie. So he's not disappeared.
Yes. People knew where he was.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would tell you that government agencies slept on their job.
Now I want to ask.
Yes.
You as Parliament, representing the people, with the job that you have to oversight the executive and to ask these questions. Why aren't we hearing those questions? Why aren't we hearing that there's a proper special committee that's been formed to deal with this particular matter?
No, today the Senate
push for maybe a public inquiry, a proper public inquiry into this matter.
Senate has a committee. Senate has I think yesterday they had a report on something.
They have an ad hoc committee that's been asking questions.
They have an ad hoc committee that they have. I think that committee has come to Shakahola twice. I even they passed through Kilifi town and I met them there and had a conversation. They even went there with the speaker. So Senate took the opportunity. I raised a question in a statement in Parliament personally and the National Assembly, and we had a discussion, a special motion. We had a discussion about Shakahola and all that. But then when we finished, when we wanted to now to move to set up something, Senate came in, and we allowed Senate. We agreed with Senate that we don't want to have two committees. So Senate said they want to lead. So we allowed Senate to go ahead with that thing. And I think they're still holding hearings up to today.
Okay.
And I think also government has, there's this commission that was set by the president on religious leaders, and it's being led by Justice Latiff and Reverend. So the two commissions that are following up these issues, plus Senate. So there's work going on. And there are people even today coming into Senate to testify and to give information about Shakahola. And even as we sit here, there is still a lot of investigations going on.
Do you have clarity as parliamentarians, especially you people who are now the leaders of parliament?
Yes.
Do you have clarity on how long this is expected to take? Because it looks like to be an open-ended one. We are now going into phase 5 of exhumations. How long are we going to exhume bodies? How long are we going to take to conduct postmortem?
Yes.
When shall those people be identified?
I think yesterday they identified around 100 families identified bodies of their relatives yesterday. And they will go on until everybody identifies those that were beyond recognition.
But identification just requires DNA.
Yes, and DNA, we have a problem in this country. For DNA sampling, you have to take to South Africa and get results. I think so we still have to depend on South Africa.
So are those the challenges that we have?
That is one of the challenges.
Because
one of the major challenges.
As parliamentarians, you can push. We hire for specialized services to come to Kenya.
Yes.
For this particular operation. Think about it, Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
600 people have been reported missing.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Those are loved ones who are looking for their loved ones.
Yes.
They're hearing their bodies that are being exhumed, or we've taken a break because Johansson Odor needs to do this, then we shall continue. That is a long time to wait.
Yes.
What about those people?
Now, interestingly, I think you saw a story that there are fresh, there's some bodies that were dug up and that looked like they had been buried
more recently.
And that actually puzzled me. Like, we got a report that the police had combed the area, the whole area, using helicopters and drones and everything. And drones, and said there is nobody else. But then we get information that there are bodies which were dug up, which could have been buried during the excavation time.
Or during the time when they were combing the whole area.
Yes. So these are those are a shocker, and we are yet to understand how this happened, because if there are all those police officers there, there are over 200 police officers stationed there today.
Mheshimiwa, the death of every Kenyan is as important as the next.
Yes. Yes.
We had a tragic, terrible accident in Londiani.
Yes.
And the entire government was
Yes.
There are issues arising from it right now.
Yes.
But we saw, I personally was happy that optics was there.
Yes.
What about for Shakahola?
Interestingly, I want to move to the next. Interestingly, they have held now Mackenzie for 6 months. How many months now?
Many, and they're asking to hold him for 49 more days.
Yes, and they have a problem on how to charge him, because the last meeting I attended, security meeting I attended, I could see the DCI and they were grappling. What do we charge this guy for? They're looking, is he in money laundering? No. Pastor Mackenzie is a poor man. He is not this pastor who was getting money from the people. And if people sold their properties for him, I don't know where they took the money and what they did with the money. But Pastor Mackenzie, you look at, he doesn't have...
He has not even finished paying for this land.
Yes, he's not finished paying for this land. Then these guys are, so what do we charge Pastor Mackenzie with? What do you charge with? Under Kenyan law, up to today. That's the question
then
that
let
DCI
them release him.
Grappling. But releasing him again is telling people what?
That they failed.
Yes. So we have a lot of issues around. Yeah. I see the DCI people and I see government people and the lawyers. There are lawyers involved, wondering what do we do with this.
Since when has the Kenyan police didn't have an ability to charge?
We hope to hear. We hope to get more answers from this.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
The Honourable Owen Bayer, MP for Kifi North Constituency and Deputy Majority Leader.
Yes.
It's 8 a.m. Time for the news.
The Kenya Kwanza side could today name its members who will participate in mediation talks with the opposition just a day after naming their members who will be led by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. Azimio members stated that they are ready for the talks. Azimio insisted that cost of living must be discussed by the selected panel, despite the majority leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, saying that only 5 issues will be discussed and cost of living is not one of them. These, as Kenya Kwanza leaders have maintained that the talks should be made open so that everyone knows what will be discussed.
Na tunataka tumuulize Rais William Ruto, ikiwa Raila atakutembelea, tunataka ile mazungumzo ikuwe wazi. Tunataka media wakuwe pale, maredio ikuwe pale. Raila anauliza bei ya unga, sisi kama wakulima tunataka tusikie anauliza kwa nini. Kwa sababu ukiona ile communique wamefanya weekend, hakuna mahali wameandika cost of living. Agenda, nia na malengo ya Raila Odinga na ndugu zake wa kuzimia ni kutafuta ufalme wa userikali.
If there is any conversation that must go on between William Ruto and Raila Odinga, let it be public. Iwekwe hapo mbele, waanze na tusikize yenye wanaongeleshana.
Suspected cult leader Paul Mackenzie will remain in custody for 2 more days pending the hearing and determination of an application filed by the prosecution seeking to detain him and his co-accused for 47 more days. The prosecution argued that they needed time to complete investigations, with the defense counsel asking the court to dismiss the application, citing inhumane conditions meted on their clients while in custody. Mackenzie and these 15 other co-accused persons appeared before Shanzu Law Court Senior Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikanda following the lapse of 30 days granted by the court to detain them previously. Magistrate Shikanda, however, directed that the suspects remain in custody for 2 more days pending the hearing and determination of the application. These, as Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Odor conducted a post-mortem examination on 6 bodies yesterday, bringing an end to the 4th phase of the autopsies on bodies exhumed from Shakahola. Here is Odor after the exercise.
Today we've done 26 autopsies. Yesterday we had said that we are remaining with 24 autopsies. However, as we're doing postmortem today, we realized that 2 of the females who are being done autopsy on were gravid, meaning that they were pregnant. So making it 2 more persons. Of these postmortems, adults were 14 while children were 10. Most of them we are unable to ascertain the cause of death because of decomposition. This is 18, while 8 of them died because of starvation, and 2 of them we were unable to establish the gender because of a level of deterioration. Male were 8 and female were 14. 4 of them were decomposed to such an extent we are unable to determine the gender.
The National Land Commission has identified land left behind by receding water bodies as a new source of controversy and concern in the country. According to the authority, the crisis had been further compounded by lack of clear guidelines and where riparian began against water levels. This emerged during the ongoing Environment and Land Court Judges Annual Conference, where stakeholders noted an increase in environmental cases. According to NLC Chairperson Geshu Motachi, receding water of the Indian Ocean had left major spaces, attracting the interest of investors. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has commenced investigations into the alleged embezzlement of 837 million shillings by officials of the Uasin Gishu County Government. The funds were collected from parents for the facilitation of tertiary education in Finland and Canada during the 2021-2022 financial year. EACC established that the Uasin Gishu Education Trust Fund account was opened in May 2021, and by December 2022, 957,167,143 had been credited to the account by parents. And nutritionists are advocating for a policy review to incorporate flexibility for working breastfeeding mothers to ensure their babies consume breast milk exclusively for 6 months. The experts want lactation stations established in working places for the easy realization of the initiative. Director of Nutrition and Dietetics Services in the Ministry of Health, Veronica Kirogo, noted that there was a drop of 1% in breastfeeding mothers according to a demographic health survey. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Into the CBD this morning, quite some traffic. We're looking at it coming in from Uhuru Highway. Also, this has all come from Langata Road. It's coming in heavy from Gong Road as well. Landis Road going towards Haile Selassie is very, very busy. Are you coming in from Westlands? You'll be stuck a little bit as you're coming in from Chiromo and then onto Uhuru Highway. The Thika Superhighway is also quite heavy. We're looking at the drift just beyond Survey towards the Pangani underpass, and quite some traffic as well on Kiambu Road this morning. We are still in traffic hour. We're in the middle of it and likely to be here for some time. Let us know what's going on where you are this morning. We want to keep things moving as much as possible. Trouble spots, let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. 7
minutes after 8. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room around the country on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and on YouTube and Facebook, Spice FM. If you miss any of our conversations at any point, please remember you can catch up the conversations on YouTube. All our conversations are posted there. Kenya's largest single-day athletics event is back this year, and it's bigger. Get ready for the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Join us at the Uhuru Gardens on Sunday, the 29th day of October, as we celebrate 20 years running. Register today for 2,000 shillings. Only at www.nairobimarathon.com. That's www.nairobimarathon.com. All proceeds go towards the Future Makers program, which helps young people, especially girls and people living with disability, to learn, to earn, and to grow. The Standard Chartered Marathon coming up. Guess what? Celebrating 20 years. It's holiday season as well.
Yes, it is. August has kicked in. July came to an end. And you know what that means? The August holiday season is here for the majority of Kenya's beloved learners. And DSTV has got your kids and the entire family well covered with the greatest edutaining kids content on the African continent. Did you know that you can be edutained? Welcome to our wonderful, wonder-filled world, and get connected to over 15 dedicated channels exclusively for kids content. A new season of miraculous tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir starts on Disney Channel at 4:15 every day on Channel 303. Tune in and let the kids feel all the adventure and fun, and it's all happening on DSTV. Dial *423# or download my DSTV app to get a DST decoder with 1 month of family for just 2,999 shillings.
Indeed. Dr. Korir Sing'oei is the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Foreign Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. He's our next guest in the Situation Room. Good morning, Bona PS.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room. You're looking
It's
dapper.
always a pleasure.
Karibu sana. Make yourself comfortable. Thank you. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but no, we'll make sure that you land safely.
Thank you.
CT has the day's proverb. Every week, CT goes around Africa and picks one country, and he tells us, he gives us proverbs from that country. This week, he decided to come to the Horn of Africa.
Yes, we are in the Federal Republic of Somalia. We carelessly refer to it as just Somalia, but it's the Federal Republic of Somalia, whose capital is Mogadishu. It has many firsts. A country that had two colonial powers, the Italians, the British. A country with the longest coastline, definitively in Africa, but there are those who argue even on the globe. Many features.
You can't have a longer coastline than Australia, which is a country.
Australia is more than a country.
No, continue. Just go on.
When a grown-up falls, children laugh. When they fall, as the children, they cry.
When a grown-up falls,
yes,
children laugh. When they fall, they cry. P.S. What do you make of that Somali proverb?
That's fascinating, but I think it's the truth. That's number one. Like it's the reality. I suppose the idea is that when somebody who has certain capabilities and is meant to be able to cope with situations, appears when challenged to falter, it doesn't attract sympathy. It instead, I think, appears to attract some sense of derision. So that's what I get out of it. Yeah,
it's very well put.
City?
It's very, very well put. Put it very, very well. If it were an exam, and the exam was out of 20, I'd give you 21, simply because you've explained and surpassed the meaning. But it's precisely that, really, if you think about it.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Yes, because in the child's eye, a grown-up is someone who is capable of feats that the child cannot even imagine. And the child will fall, and they're used to falling because they run around and they fall. But they don't anticipate that a grown-up will fall. It's not something they expect from a grown-up. But then the Germans have a certain saying. Yeah? Germans have this habit of having compound words. And when people derive mirth from someone's misfortune, Schadenfreude, now, I'm sure I've massacred it completely. But it means precisely that people who derive pleasure from someone's misfortune. Yes.
Somebody else's misfortune.
Yes. When someone slips and falls, we usually, you have to stop yourself from laughing. And that's someone's misfortune. If they're injured, then you'll sort of feel, I shouldn't have laughed.
It's a bit much.
Yeah, the Kalenjin have a similar proverb, sort of. Like they say, tup charori otak miat.
Okay.
Which basically means that that laughter is sort of the brother to disaster. They're sort of related. So something like that.
Not very diplomatic, is it, of all these proverbs? Now, you are the Principal Secretary for Foreign Affairs. There are two state departments in that ministry now. There's one that was created specifically to deal with diaspora affairs. Now you deal with the other one, that's Foreign Affairs. What exactly do you do?
So the State Department that I lead carries the chunk of the ministry. We have on a good day, about 19 functions to run.
On a good day?
On a good day. That's what is spelled out. Our mandate is actually spelled out in the Foreign Service Act 2011, but it's better elaborated in the executive order that the President issued at the beginning of his term.
Yeah.
And so what do? We are the gateway to Kenya on the part of foreign governments. That means that we manage the relationship between Kenya and other countries. What we do then is to deal with missions or embassies, chancelleries that are based here in Nairobi, and there are over 100 of them. We also deal, Eric, with international organizations or multilateral organizations such as the AU, the UN, UNESCO, all these entities. So we manage privileges. For example, we confer status and privileges and immunities to these entities. We drive Kenya's agenda across our 67 plus missions abroad. particularly we drive our commercial and economic agenda, across these geographies. We also, of course, manage a fairly huge staff complement in the region of about 1,500 members of staff. So we are a fairly big corporation. We have an institute called the Foreign Service Academy that we are setting up that is in the business of preparing and training, a cadre of diplomats that can be able to advance our interests abroad. Yeah.
So we have an agenda. We could say that every new administration comes with its sort of foreign agenda, but which also builds on what the country has decided this is what our foreign policy is going to be. Is there a difference between the William Ruto administration's agenda and outlook in terms of foreign relations, the difference between that and what was there before?
I think this is sort of where people sort of get it a bit wrong, because the work of the Foreign Service is to protect the national interest. It's to protect, promote, and project the national interest. Now, the national interest is a very long-term project. It's not the project of one administration. It's not the project of one political term. It runs across administrations. All the way from our independence, we have pursued a fairly consistent foreign policy. A foreign policy, number one, that is anchored on the idea of peaceful coexistence across the globe, starting with our own region, our own neighborhood, but cascades outward. It is also anchored on the idea of Pacific settlement to dispute through multilateral institutions. It's anchored on the strengthening of cooperation and democratic relationships among states. So generally we have a foreign policy or a foreign policy orientation, if you like, that is very much focused on ensuring that we continue to secure our territorial integrity. We continue to grow our economy, and we continue to play a positive role in our world. What we do have in the current administration is a nuance of that. A nuance that, number one, is very much focused on about 3 or 4 pillars. Not really pillars, I would just really call them priorities. Number one is this idea of economic diplomacy. We take the view that at the core, our number one interest as Kenya is our economy. We want our economy to get to the next level. How do we do that? We grow trade, we expand markets. And that's why we, for example, from the get-go, President Ruto has done everything to finalize negotiation around the economic partnership agreement with the European Union. The EU is a very important market for quite a number of our agricultural products. That market was beginning to be constrained because we are sort of in a different position vis-a-vis the rest of the region, because we are not an LCD. The rest of the countries are LCDs, and so unless we have a trade pact with the EU, we begin to have challenges around access to that market. So that's one piece. And then secondly, of course, we continue to do a lot of work around peace diplomacy, because again, you cannot trade, you cannot advance, you cannot expand a market if there is no peace. And so again, we continue to do a lot of work in our traditional neighborhoods, whether it's South Sudan, whether it's Somalia, whether it's Ethiopia, and you see that work going on. But more increasingly, particularly as EAC expands and as IGAD expands, we are spreading our tentacles to engage in spaces like DRC. The reason why we speak quite strongly on Sudan, for example, relates to the fact that Sudan is a very important exporter of our tea, but also more fundamentally because it's contiguous to South Sudan that is very much linked to Kenya. And so with refugee flows and any destabilization in Sudan affects, for example, the evacuation of South Sudan's oil, it creates more instability within South Sudan, and therefore Kenya does suffer a great deal. So these issues are very much connected. And then number 3, sir, is the idea of really positioning Nairobi. We are in the business of positioning Nairobi as the multilateral capital of the global south. And this administration wants to be very, very intentional in that regard, making sure that the place of UNEP is sanctified. Over the last couple of years, a couple of critical mandates that relate to the environment have been sort of moved to other capitals, Bonn, et cetera. And so UNEP, headquartered in Nairobi, has been fairly hollowed out, if you like. And so we're doing everything to be able to reposition that, as well as reposition habitat. Over the years, again, because of disinvestment, the status of infrastructure within the UNEP area has degraded, the conferencing facilities, et cetera. And so all of that has become now a project the government is invested in to make sure that the status of the UN complex is enhanced. And that's why we were able to persuade, for example, the Fifth Committee in New York to be able to provide additional resources to build a conference center and to refurbish, the entire complex. And then lastly, really, like I said, we really want to do a lot of work around building capacity. Because Kenya is being asked to do more by the region, by the global community. We are being asked, for example, to speak to issues, climate change, issues around health pandemics, issues around reforms. All these issues require a certain capacity nested within the Foreign Service. And without that capacity, we would not be able to deliver as we ought, not just for Kenya, but for the region and the world.
I can understand why the question would come in terms of if there's a shift in foreign policy and relations, especially around what I would laud and very encouraging, the sentiments that President Ruto has put across. So the question would be, does function then follow form? Form being the sentiments that he's put across when it comes to climate change that you've mentioned, talking about certain things that can or cannot continue to happen. And then where Kenya is placed in this relationship with the rest of the world, where he says, look, stop the conferencing, stop all these meetings, so much talk, we need to get down to action. That's one thing he's been very clear about. So the question is, does Kenya's relation with the rest of the world then shift in any way? Because he's the first one in a while to have made such comments about that. Secondly, we've also seen his reluctance, or actually downright refusal, to attend the Russia-Africa summit. Refusal. So we would ask now, does function follow form? Form being what the president has said. Does then now the policy of Kenya shift in any way to follow what he has said? Because he said it, and he's going to continue to operate in that manner. How does that affect foreign policy for Kenya?
So in a way, Kenya has been, quite coy and quite reluctant often to take on bigger issues, regionally and even internationally. And that has not necessarily been negative. But I think President Ruto really is of the view that the world at the moment is confronted by very complex challenges. It requires leadership. This conversation around global climate change is a huge issue that as a country we do not have the choice, to sort of speak from both sides of the mouth or to sort of straddle the fence. We must really be on the front line because, listen, over the last 2 years, you can imagine the economic loss associated with drought that Kenya has gone through. The current shocks around food prices that is leading to even political challenges, for example, emanate from the problem we have with climate change. And so it's something that we can wish away.
Right.
So the president is speaking to these issues, and the entire infrastructure is lining up. And so what that does then is to make the region, okay, so there are players within the region that would appreciate that, and they want that kind of leadership, and they actually feel naturally that is the space that belongs to Kenya. However, of course, there will always be, other states that feel a bit uncomfortable with Kenya's sort of more assertive, kind of posture, and therefore, it's really a continuing dynamic that we are also monitoring, because I don't think Kenya wants to be over assertive. I think Kenya is saying that we have critical issues that are happening within the region that require leadership, and Kenya is going to step forward, but nevertheless, it's doing everything to carry everybody along. Right. So, for example, in the context of IGAD, in the context of Sudan, yes, because President Ruto has been given the mandate to provide leadership, for example, but he's carrying the rest of the leaders along in that process with him. Secondly, on the issue of the Russia-Africa Summit, the position that Kenya has taken is very much, number one, it's actually fairly traditional, if you like, because it comes from the perspective of saying that Kenya is strongly aligned with states that are democratic, states that are open, states that pursue good governance, states that look at these as critical values and objectives of governance. So that's number one. But number two is President Ruto has taken the view that these convenings, while useful, must be structured in such a way that serves the interests of Africa. And therefore, he's taken the view that, for example, let's have AU represent Africa in some of these meetings. And Kenya was represented but at a much lower level, at ambassadorial level, because there was no agenda that Kenya felt could not be prosecuted, by our ambassador in Moscow, as well as by the AU chair. And I'm glad we did that, for the reason, that the emblematic pictures that came out of the Russian-Africa Summit would be really, really troublesome to me, sitting where I sit right now.
Why?
Because, for the reason that you have Colonel Traore, the leader now of a country called Burkina Faso, by virtue of a military coup, standing side by side with a democratically elected leader in the name of Dr. William Ruto, for example. That, for me, would be an extremely disturbing spectre, because we have a norm within the African Union, okay? All the way from the Constitutive Act of the AU, read together with the Charter on Elections, Democracy and Good Governance. They are very, very clear about how power transitions, how power moves from one party to another. The AU has very clear standards against forbidding the institution of coups or the perpetration of coups. And so the contradiction that emanates out of the Russian-Africa Summit, to my mind, I think actually serves to really undermine a lot of normative developments that we have seen develop on the continent. And so I'm very happy that Kenya is not associated with a convening that then again begins to undermine the progress that we have made.
But then what appears, this is like taking our own internal issues to the global stage and trying to go and fight them there. But back at home, we are not really dealing with them strongly. For example, apart from issuing statements condemning the coups that are happening in West Africa, in those countries, there is Burkina Faso, there is Mali, and these countries, what else is the AU doing? What else is the AU doing to ensure that the people of these countries actually see what the AU stands for? That when you talk about democracy and people expressly voting for their leaders, that they are encouraged to do that. What is the AU doing? Apart from just issuing statements, of course, or ECOWAS threatening to expel them from this club.
I'm not saying that much has been done, because of course these countries are sovereign, okay? But the AU is an institution of rules. It's an institution that is governed by very, very clear principles laid out in the Constitutive Act of the AU, and it's laid out in a couple of other frameworks. Now, these frameworks require the AU to behave in a particular way when something like a coup has taken place. Part of that requirement is the sanctioning of that country. And the prohibition of that country from participating in any AU-related function. It forbids that country, for example, its leaders from engaging with the rest of the continent until there is restoration of democratic order. All right. So those are the standards, and what we have seen the AU chair doing is beginning to enforce those standards. And those standards have been enforced in a couple of countries to an extent where we've had a restoration, of democratic order. Because since 2000, Eric, the continent has cohered around the position that what will lead to sustainable development, including the realization of Agenda 2063, which is the continental vision for development, is the deepening of democratic order. It is where countries are democratic, they do elections, that citizens have a voice, that they participate, and that there is good governance. Yeah. These are the foundation stone. This is the foundation stone upon which stable Africa can be realized, and it's on that basis that we can be able to realize Agenda 2063, that we can realize the imperative of the African Free Continental Trade Area, that we can expand commerce and trade amongst our countries. And so those are the principles. And so when you have a coup, what does that do, for example, to an enterprise such as Agenda 2063? What does that do to the Africa Free Continental Trade Area? If we had intentions of moving goods from here to, and we moved some goods to Accra, which is not too far from Burkina Faso, last year, what does that do to these programs and to these objectives? Which then means that even when Kenya speaks, it's not speaking out of turn. It's speaking out of the understanding that we have interconnected markets, and value chains that we are continuing to build and develop across the continent. And whenever there is political instability in the nature of a coup, particularly, this entire work, and this entire investment is undermined a great deal.
Disrupted.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. 27 minutes to 9. Dr. Korir Singh-Oei, the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Foreign Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, is our guest this morning. We are talking about Kenya and Kenya's positioning diplomatically across the globe, taking advantage of our bilateral relations with all and sundry in the world. bomayangu.go.ke is the platform that you need to go to register for the affordable housing program by the government. This is the only portal by the government for affordable housing. If you're not registering in it, then it means you will not participate in the affordable housing program. All you need to do is log on to bomayangu.go.ke, click on the tab, the button for register. It's green in color. If you find it red, you're not on the right website. Or you can do *832#. That's *832#. We'll be back shortly after the weather and traffic.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to
it's
start
14 degrees
your
and
day.
cloudy in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 19 and highs of 24 in a mostly sunny Nakuru at 16, partly sunny at 13 in Nyeri, highs of 18, and we'll see highs of 23 in a partly sunny Eldoret at 16. It's 23 and cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 29 and 28 will be the high in a sunny Malindi at 25, 21 and mostly cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 28, and 27 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 18. Kampala still raining at 20, highs of 27, and it's a sunny day in Dar es Salaam at 25. It will go to highs of 29. It's ever so slightly warmer in Johannesburg now at 3 degrees, highs of 15, and cloudy at 24 in Lagos, beckoning the rain, highs of 28. 31 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa, currently at 21.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life.
All right, so we're looking at traffic heavy on Langata Road. It's going towards Raila Odinga Way. That's going to connect with Gong Road. Landis Road is jam-packed inbound. Going towards the Kamkunji roundabout, we'll see quite some of that. On the Thika Superhighway, coming in from Survey at the Drift, it's heavy as you get towards Pangani. And we'll see more traffic coming out of Wayaki Way into the CBD. Limuru Road, not doing too poorly this morning. Let's continue just so. All right, if you're heading out of Nairobi in a westerly direction, the fog and mist combined this morning is quite low. So you're going to have to use your fog lights, and please drive with caution because it's very, very foggy. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's talk there and keep things moving this morning.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
PS Dr. Korir Singh, the PS for Foreign Affairs, and you've told us the main agendas that the administration is focusing on are 3: economic diplomacy, peace diplomacy, positioning Nairobi as the capital of the global south. On this peace diplomacy, I've got to ask you this question, Bona PS. When Kenya has, worked to bring peace in the region, it has been welcomed. In Somalia, in South Sudan, now in the DRC, in places that we've gone to, even in the latest conflict in Ethiopia, Kenya was welcomed in open arms. And then comes Sudan. And it appears that one side of this conversation is not really happy with Kenya's presence. How are you handling that?
I think it's a difficult situation. It's actually a very, very difficult situation. Kenya's engagement with Sudan is by virtue of its membership in IGAD. So Sudan is an important member of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, which, as you know, very recently has just adopted a new treaty out of Djibouti that now makes IGAD a full-fledged regional economic community. It has a very robust developmental mandate. Kenya has also worked very, very hard to bring back Eritrea, which had become estranged from the membership of IGAD. And so Kenya is in the business of ensuring that there is a coherent IGAD. And so when this conflict erupted over 100 days ago, a virtual meeting of heads of states was convened immediately. At that meeting, 3 heads of states were charged with the mandate of reaching out to Khartoum and under the leadership of President Salva Kiir Mayardit of South Sudan. That effort, did not bear fruit. And that is when IGAD at the heads of states level met physically, and it's in that context that the initial group was expanded to 4 to include Ethiopia, and it's when Kenya was charged with the responsibility to lead. So Kenya is really prosecuting an agenda on behalf of IGAD. And because we are doing it under the aegis of IGAD, unless the IGAD heads of states meet and revisit that decision, it's something that Kenya will continue to pursue. But I think what is significant in this regard, Eric, is the fact that IGAD's effort is just one of the efforts, that is seeking to address the humanitarian crisis that has enveloped this very important country of our region, and there is a process out of Jeddah led by the US and of course Saudi. There is a process, a neighborhood process led by Cairo, and what has happened over the last couple of days, in the interest of greater inclusion, in the interest of trust building, has been an attempt to have a framework within which these initiatives are coordinated so that they can now speak as one. Additionally, in the recent past as well, President Ruto has had a one-on-one phone conversation with General Burhan to really again emphasize the criticality of being able to focus on the most important issue here, which is the restoration of peace, in Sudan. And I think part of the discordance with particularly the military, wing that is sitting in the leadership of Khartoum right now with Nairobi revolves around Nairobi's insistence that it's not just enough to have the two generals engage. It's very important to bring on board the civilian voices, because as you know, part of the reason why we are where we are today in Sudan is because of the failed transition from that military rule to a full-fledged democratic order. And so what Nairobi's position has been is, let's make sure that it's not just the two of you talking, but let's make sure that we have the civilian voices around the table as well. And so that in a way could have created probably some of the challenges that you see. But other than that, really, I think one should not pay too much attention to the noises around the issue. I think what we are seeing is the lack of unified action. By on the part of SAF as well, because there's a lot of internal fragmentation, and so one cannot take the views of one general to say that is then the controlling position on the part of SAF.
But this is the general who is on the front of the whole conversation, just like the president has talked to General Al Burhan, not the others. The president is expecting General Al Burhan to be at the table with the other side. So when we say that there could be internal fragmentation, are we then also involving ourselves in their own internal squabbles? Maybe that's what
it's precisely the other way. We don't want to get involved, all right? And so that's why the president is dealing with the leader of SAF, General Burhan, and he's had a phone conversation. But broadly, these issues, Eric, are very complex. It's very fluid. It's very dynamic. Lives are being lost every day. The level of displacement and destruction of Khartoum, it's so jarring and so worrying that it may even appear as if we are speaking too loudly on the issue, but we are compelled by the reality on the ground. We are fed by information from the UN side, from humanitarian workers on the ground, whether in Darfur or in Khartoum itself. The situation is very, very troublesome. And as Kenya and as IGAD, we have that mandate right now, and we have to continue to build trust with the different actors, even when it appears that, there's little mistrust here and there. Yeah.
Can I go a little bit towards global finance, global economics here, and the role that Kenya is playing, again, from the sentiments of the president during the economic summit, speaking with President Macron and others, where again the conversation was that, we need to make this form of lending or economic empowerment more suitable or more palatable to the countries in the global south, and that we should actually form part of the conversation when it comes to the decisions that are made in terms of global lending or financial assistance. Now, Kenya previously may have been seen as, the one, when it comes now to foreign relations, as the one who is, many times neutral when it comes to some of these things. But again, we've seen from the president a bullish and maybe very well accepted position by many countries on the continent to say, look, how about you regard us a little bit more when you talk about how you lend money to the global south, and let us be included in that conversation. Many would have applauded silently from where they sat. Does it affect any way, again, the foreign policy of the country then when it comes to financial assistance, financial economic lending, which is a big part of foreign relations?
I actually don't think it does, because I think the position that President Ruto has taken, which is the Kenyan position, is that we are faced by a multiple of threats and shocks, and the fundamental one is the debt crisis. Almost 3/4 of African countries really are teetering on the brink of defaults. We were first hit by the initial cycle of the financial crisis from 2008. That has continued, operating on the background, but really still impacting our economies negatively. We were then hit by COVID, very, very adversely. 2 years of no production. During which time, how did the globe respond? They responded through the World Bank and the IMF by creating these special drawing rights to allow countries to be able to access what they were calling soft loans. But those special drawing rights were disproportionately allocated, in the sense that Africa was able to access those lendings at a completely different rate from the rate that, for example, Europe accessed them. So a country like Portugal, that is almost similarly situated as our own in terms of risk profile, was able to access credit at a very, very reasonable rate, while Kenya accessed it very expensively. The net effect of that is we are facing a serious debt crisis, and it's not just Kenya; it's probably the continent. And so this is a huge conversation, and when you layer that debt crisis with the crisis now of climate change, which is making countries such as Kenya unable to produce enough food. You've got to borrow in order to purchase food and stuff like that. You compound the problem. And so it's no longer an issue that one can talk from the comfort of neutrality. It is a very, very serious situation which must be confronted. And what these multiple crises have done is, and then you layer that also, and I forgot, you layer that with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Again, disruption of supply chains. We've got problems with wheat. We've got problems with fertilizer. All of this have spoken to the fact that the global system, particularly the financial system and the peace and security architecture, are dysfunctional. And because of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, countries that hitherto were not listening and paying attention are beginning to realize, wait a minute, maybe Africa has a point. And so what President Ruto has been doing is really articulating in a very coherent fashion why Africa needs to be on the table, not necessarily based on historical injustice, but based on pragmatism and the need for cooperative solution. The idea that, for example, a problem like climate change cannot be resolved, it doesn't really matter whether you are the polluter or the one who is least polluting, you're still affected anyway. Okay? Yeah. And so somehow you've got to find a way in which you're able to work together to create a solution to this challenge. And so what President Ruto has been talking about is we need to reimagine the World Bank. We need to reimagine the IMF, the negotiation that took place at Bretton Woods in the aftermath of the Second World War. Yes, Africa was not on the table, but the reality of today is that Africa is a very important constituency, 1.2 billion people in a few years, several trillions of dollars, worth of an economy. This is a very serious player in this space. And it's no longer a matter of begging. It's a matter really of fairness, and even from the perspective of ensuring the integrity of the institutions that exist, Africa must have a bigger voice.
If you look at the geopolitical landscape of this planet, with what you've just said, there are those who would argue that the Cold War is back and that it is bearing on us and it's influencing very many things that happen, again, on that geopolitical space. And perhaps our president understands this well and has tuned into it and realized here comes an opportunity, because when you have two blocks fighting against each other, they will want supporters. Now, I remember one of the things that happened after the Second World War was the formation of the non-aligned movement. That was 1955. 120 countries who didn't want to be on either side of the Warsaw Pact or of NATO. People like Fidel Castro waded in and all that. But here we are today, we're talking of Sudan, and the issues around the Cold War and the new players who have come into this power play cannot be wished away. You cannot say that the problem in Sudan is just Sudan's. Absolutely. There are other players who have a stake or who have a say or who have had input. And others still want input. So when we look at our position and the situation that we find ourselves in, when the very architecture of the Cold War is back with us, it presents an opportunity, and a big one. Because previously, we would take sides depending on the colonial masters whom we had, and what it is that they promised they would do and not do. We've had enough time to understand what they can do and what they can't do, and how it is they've benefited. And the discussion that the president introduced, in my mind, is a good discussion. It's disruptive, but it is a good discussion. Now, in light of that, what then would we say is our political and foreign policy? Because we cannot be neutral, not really. We cannot be non-aligned, not really. But then on the other hand, why must we follow these set rules? Why can't we chart a path? But that's where the AU fails, because if we were as strong as we ought to be, the very things you're saying, Daktari, would be very possible. Because we'd just say, excuse me, as Africa, we're not going to do this. And they would listen. There would be no choice but for them to listen. If you look at China, that has a population that is slightly bigger than ours as a continent, slightly. When China says something, people listen, because it's one voice, really. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Now, we have even more resources than China in terms of natural resources. We have a population. And as for human resources, ours keeps growing. What then again is our foreign policy and our political policy? And how is it determining our foreign policy with regards to these things? And is it that as Africans and the AU, are we actually able to understand the pivotal position that we have and the advantageous situation we find ourselves in historically, which if we do not take advantage of, we will not be where we were. We will be in a far worse position than we've been before, because somebody else will take advantage of what we ourselves are primed to take advantage of.
It's really a very complex question that you pose, but I think what I can say at this moment is that we are dealing with a very dynamic geopolitical situation. And like you rightly observed, when you're dealing with transitions, transitions are they create fragilities, but they also create opportunity. Our understanding from where we sit in Nairobi is that we have a very solid basis for engaging with the rest of the world. The president's plan, for example, identifies that constituency, for example, as Africa. It identifies the European Union. It identifies the UK as a standalone constituency. It identifies the US and China, as very distinct constituencies that we want to engage with. You're completely right when it comes to Africa. Africa can have a stronger voice, but right now the fragmentation of the continent, the inequality of the continent, the capacity gaps that we witness, the differences between the North and the South, the language barriers, the travel barriers, the communication barriers, all these things still persist, and we need to be able to address them in an accelerated fashion. The conversation President Ruto is having around reform is not just limited to global institutional reforms. He's also speaking reform to the AU. So take the example of an issue like, if tomorrow a decision is made that the Security Council will have a permanent member from Africa, say 2 permanent members or 1 permanent member, who will that member be? Okay? How do you make that decision? So the Zuluini consensus says, let's come back together, we will sort of agree. But if this is about permanent membership, the natural member within that space would be the AU.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
But is the AU as currently constituted able to really represent Africa's interests? Okay? And so the conversation that was started by President Paul Kagame, it's a conversation that Dr. Ruto has now picked up, and really it's about reforming the AU. The inability that Eric sort of alluded to earlier of Africa to be able to respond to this crisis, including coups within our own neighborhoods, and poor governance and poverty, all of the inability of the AU to deal with these problems, means that we cannot exercise leadership globally as a collective.
Yeah.
And therefore we will continue to deal bilaterally, as individual countries, as South Africa, as Kenya, as Nigeria, as opposed to acting cooperatively. Yeah.
You spoke about building capacity, building capacity of our envoys who sit in Nairobi and in our missions across the globe, and even in those international bodies. But then if you look at the structure of our foreign service, apart from those, experienced envoys who work in the offices, the heads are political appointees. Should this continue being the case, where we have political appointments of ambassadors and other senior officers who go and sit in our missions abroad, who are basically just sitting there because this is a political reward appointment?
I think nobody should be appointed to the Foreign Service at a leadership position or at any position as a political reward. Whether you are a politician, or from the professional cadre, it should really be one of those services, because of what I've said, that at the core Foreign Service is national interest, a national interest that transcends, political administrations. It's a long-term project. It's the longue durée, as the French would say. And so the Foreign Service, just like the military, is an institution that should attract our very best. And because it's fairly regimented, opportunity should be given on the basis only of merit and the capacity of an individual to be able to prosecute what is the national interest. And so even as the president exercises his mind on the matter of, who will be charged with the responsibility of being our ambassadors and high commissioners and the deputies, I think this is a matter that should occupy his mind as well. And I do hope very sincerely, and this is the advice that we will continue to give, that only our best, should be given that opportunity.
And finally, there's been the whole issue of those embassies abroad not receiving the support that they require. Staff not being paid on time, embassies themselves not getting, refurbished, even some of them being kicked out of where they stay. What are you doing to address that?
Again, it's a conceptual problem. It starts from the point of view of our budget makers, of the pass holders in Parliament understanding what Foreign Service is. Foreign Service is not a transactional ministry. It's not the Ministry of Water or Roads or whatever. So when you give the Ministry of the Foreign Service 17 billion shillings, to run its program across, across 70 or so geographies in the world, when 85% of that goes, of our budget goes to service those missions and only 15% remains at headquarters, you're impoverishing the Foreign Service. It means that this is really not sufficiently prioritized. And so even as we seek to use the resources that we have in a fiscally prudent manner, the reality is that as a country, we have not come to a place where we recognize the centrality of the Foreign Service as the real driver and promoter of the national interest. The moment we do that, we will invest a little more resources to it. And once we do that, in my view, some of the small challenges that you have described, will be a thing of the past.
Okay. P.S., we thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, kind sir.
And we'll invite you again, because these conversations must keep happening. We must all get to understand what our foreign service is all about, what you're doing abroad, what you're doing to promote Kenya, and also how you're positioning the country.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Korir Singoe is the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Foreign Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign and Diplomatic Affairs. He's been our guest this morning. Keep it here for more. In the next hour, we talk about gender. We have somebody who sits in the cabinet who's not a cabinet minister, but who is a presidential advisor. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Some very nice, mature music.
They really took me back to my days, and I can just feel again and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of Spice FM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The government has defended the decision to resume logging operations, noting that the move seeks to create job opportunities, spur economic growth in the rural areas, and improve the livelihoods of millions of individuals and communities that depend on forest. In addition, the state says that logging is strictly limited to gazetted plantation forest areas, ensuring the health and integrity of delicate natural forest ecosystems. According to a statement, the decision to lift the ban was informed by an inventory of forest plantations, which was undertaken by a multi-agency task force between the years 2020 to 2022. In the task force report, it was revealed that there was a total of 26,000 hectares of mature and over-mature forest plantation stocks. Mombasa County Government has unveiled the first ever county gender-based violence rescue center amid high sexual and gender-based violence cases. The facility, located in Maugunja area in Makirunge ward, is expected to boost access to justice for vulnerable populations facing GBV and other forms of sexual violence. And an arrest warrant has been issued for the key suspect in a 2018 fake tender case involving the National Intelligence Service, State House, the Deputy President's Office, and Americans. Kiambu Senior Principal Magistrate Manuel Akinyanjui ordered that Joy Wangari Kamau, who allegedly impersonated a public service employee, be arrested after she absconded to court hearings. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations was ordered to amend the charge sheet and exclude Wangari. In the current charge sheet, she and 3 others are charged with 11 counts ranging from conspiracy to defraud, obtaining money by false pretense, making a false document without authority, forgery, stealing, obtaining goods by false pretense, uttering a false, and personating a person employed in the public service. And the Court of Appeal has shut down an application by Facebook parent company Meta seeking to suspend a case in which 184 content moderators are suing the social media giant. The court declined to suspend this case by the staff who were responsible for reviewing violent and hateful posts on Facebook as employees of Meta's moderating partner, Summersource. The moderators at Facebook's Nairobi moderation hub sued Meta and Summer for sacking the entire workforce and blacklisting the laid-off workers. Internationally, and France is preparing to evacuate French and European citizens from Niger after a presidential coup plunged the West African nation into a political crisis that polarized neighboring countries in the region. French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna said the first evacuation plane was airborne but did not specify if the flight departed for or from Niger. There are several hundred of French and several 100 European citizens that wish to leave Niger and will be evacuated by France. And deadly downpours have triggered landslides and floods that swept away cars and destroyed roads in Beijing as the remnants of Typhoon Doksuri unleashed the heaviest deluge in a decade over the part of the northern China. 2 days of rainfall have overwhelmed riverbeds around the western outskirts of Chinese capital, turning once calm waters into ferocious torrents that have swept into people's homes and torn down streets. At least 11 people have been killed and 27 others reported missing, while more than 127,000 people have been evacuated from the city. And a day after Volodymyr Zelensky said war was returning to Russia with an attempted drone strike on Moscow, the Kremlin launched a deadly airstrike against the Ukrainian president's hometown of Nyeri. At least 6 people were killed, including a 5-year-old girl, and dozens of others were wounded when a pair of ballistic missiles struck a school building and residential tower in the central Ukrainian city. Zelensky said more than 350 people were involved in the rescue operation. Emergency services personnel were still searching for survivors under the rubble. And 6 Chinese nationals were arraigned for allegedly engaging in mining activities in Kitigu area, Vega County, without a license. The 6 suspects include 1 woman and 5 men, namely Zhang Yongzhon, Lu King, Liu Kui, Kui Jiangping, and Yu Peng. The foreigners were apprehended last week and brought before Vega law magistrates to face various charges, including unauthorized mining activities in Kitigu area. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, still in traffic hour, according to the clock, but doesn't look too bad once we're looking at the streets. Yes, indeed. Let's look outside of Nairobi for a little bit. And there's a bit of a jam as you're heading out towards Naivasha. It's because folks are still taking it slow. The mist and fog are heavy and low. So please be very careful if you're heading in that direction, or if you have to wait a bit, I'd suggest you do just that, because if you try to rush it, we might have an unfortunate situation, which we're trying to avoid. All right, weather means that you have to run it slow just a little bit. Coming back into the city, Nairobi, we're seeing some movement still on the Thika Superhighway, Jogoo Road as well, coming into the CBD, but apart from that, looks manageable. We'll keep an eye on things through the morning. Traffic hour should be over in no time from now, but let's just check see. Spice FM KE on Twitter as we try to keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
7 minutes after 9, the final hour of the Situation Room is now underway. Welcome to August. If you've just woken up since Sunday, we are Kenya's biggest conversation, live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, and also live on Spice FM around the country. Ndu,
yeah,
it's holiday season.
It is.
Edutainment, you said.
That's right.
And
GoTV says go to GoTV. It's holiday and adventures kwa wengi on GoTV. We're not leaving anyone behind because we have good programs for children of all ages. Whether you're dealing with little children or all the way through to teenagers, there's something you can tune into and enjoy, from Ladybug and Cat Noir, teenage superheroes, Wazi wa Miraculous. The show airs every weekday at 4:15 on the Disney Channel. You can also enjoy Adventures of Henry Danger every Saturday and Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on Nickelodeon. That's channel 87 on GoTV. What do you need to do? Download my GoTV app, or you can dial *423# and get into the world of edutainment.
Very, very, very important. And as you do that, also remember health is important. One of the things that you do with your health is you maintain it. And how do you maintain good health? One of the things is you exercise. Running is a very good thing to do. Now, the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon is back this year. It's bigger. We are commemorating the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. This year takes place on the 29th of October, and it will be a Sunday. The Nairobi event will take place along the Southern Bypass, kickoff, start and finish at Uhuru Gardens. But of course, we'll have the other events taking place around the country, and the virtual run anywhere in the world. Just register today, nairobimarathon.com. That's nairobimarathon.com. Proceeds go to the Standard Chartered's Future Makers program. Harriet Chigai is the president's cabinet level advisor on women rights. Or is it gender?
Women rights, you find gender comes in because it's very difficult to talk about women and girls and forget to talk about the male.
Very good.
So you find at the end of the day, you still have to talk about everybody and support everybody.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation again.
Thank you very much, Latiff.
Good to have you back here, occupying the hot seat. Now, since the last time you were here, you have taken oath of office so you can sit in cabinet meetings. You'll tell us what that is all about, how the experience has been, sitting there with these gadgets and you're discussing matters of national importance. But Siti, welcome her with the day's proverb tafadhali.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the Federal Republic of Somalia. When a grown-up falls, children laugh. When they behave being the children fall, they cry.
When a grown-up falls, children laugh. When they fall, they cry. What do you make of that, Ms. Chigai?
Well, I think it's the element of how we perceive society. As parents, you should never give up on your children. And as children, it's normal to be naughty. So at the end of the day, it's the bigger person who's the parent who needs to fashion how society looks like. I will look at it from that angle.
City, another new perspective.
Is this
again going deeper?
Every time you ask people to give you their views and perspectives on a proverb, they enrich the proverb.
Yep.
Because they're telling you exactly how that proverb talks to them. They're telling you what they see. And that is important. Yes.
Adult be the adult.
Yeah, you please quickly be the adult. Your time to be a child
is gone.
If you want childish enough, shauri yako. Now become adult.
That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. So how is it now attending cabinet meetings? And what exactly do you do as an advisor, but then you're sitting in cabinet?
Well, our position as advisors, senior advisors sitting in cabinet, already, there's a court process and we cannot delve much into that.
Yeah.
But basically, the executive order, number one, constituted the three most important offices in the executive office of the president. One of that is the Council of Economic Advisors, headed by ND. The other one is the advisor on matters security, that is Ambassador Monica Juma. And the other office is the Office of the Advisor on Women Rights. You realize that our sitting in cabinet, really, we saw the oath of office. That means the oath of secrecy. Our work to sit in cabinet is to listen in, to version, and to see how our work interlinks in terms of advisory. And I think it's important. It is important that on call, we sit in as in attendance, because how then do you fashion your advisory if you're not in line with everything that is going on? We should also be able to enrich cabinet memos where possible. Where there are gaps, we should be able to see that, And it's a new norm, and I think the presidency should actually be allowed to fashion how his office should actually operate. So it's the same thing. Any CEO who comes into office sees the gaps, sees where he wants to enrich the office, and you go ahead and do that.
Right.
So basically our sitting is in attendance and as advisory, but also the offices we carry the mantle of cabinet status. So you see, we are not breaching any constitutional provisions per se, because we are not taking any CS seat. It's the fashion of how the offices should look like.
Okay.
So for me, I think it's rich and it's something that Kenyans should embrace. And if anything, we should be able to fill the legal gaps and allow futuristic that the presidency, and you look world over. If you look at the US and how the US is fashioned, the president walks around with his advisory team. you know, and it cuts across board. And you'll realize even in federal states, you have such offices in place, and they hold a lot of mantle. Ambassador Gupta from Gita from the US was here, and she actually paid us a courtesy call. And it's just how you fashion the offices, you know, a learning entity of how these offices should also operate. So where is the weight? How do we fashion our offices so that we can feed into the programs that the presidency have, and at the same time help the society at large? So I think it's important. Yeah.
All right, so obviously the president saw it fit to have an advisor on women's rights. And I mean, it's clear where some of those things come from. Talked about the fact that gender is included in this. So, I mean, very simply, what do you do?
Oh, well, a lot. You know, good question. And I will bring in the aspect that we have the Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action. But you realize if you look at the executive order, the ministry is policy oriented. So who then diffuses these policies and do advocacy work? How do we break down all the policies that are in place and fashion them in such a way that the common mwananchi can also understand these things are in place? Because we have done so many policies in this country, but all those policies are somewhere. Who is then dissecting that policy and ensuring that it fits within all sectors? And my work generally has been to fusion that, you know. Who does coordination in terms of various flagship projects for His Excellency on matters women, on matters children? You know, there has to be a way of fusing that before it even trickles down to ministries, you know, and then the implementers. So you realize in a society like ours, we have now the presidency where flagship projects emanate from, the thinking around it, the fashioning of those projects, and then you bringing now the technical teams within the ministry. The government is playing an all-of-government approach in terms of delivery, because that has been the missing link. So where does this interconnection of all these ministries sit? So you'll realize that as advisors, we all have our social, or rather our thematic areas that we need to work. For me, it's social. Social, you have Ministry of Labor, you have Ministry of Public Service and Gender, there's health and education.
Yeah.
So when it comes to matters of women and girls within those ministries, who's doing coordination? Who's doing the fusing of any new programs that is coming in place? So you see, the advisors have a lot of work in terms of thinking, fashioning programs, aligning them. By the time you see the president is launching a product, we are happy because we know that the product now is ready to go.
You've done the background
because
work.
The background work has been done, the proper teams have been put in place, the champions have been aligned, and now it's taking off. So once it takes off, we are happy because then it's all systems gone, hands on deck, work must be done. So for us, it's a well planned how to fashion activities. You know, they normally say before you see the end product, there's a lot of cooking that has been going on. There's a lot of cooking, there's a lot of thinking, the recipe has been put in place, up to the chef, then the chef does the cooking, then there's now the matron who does the presentation on the table and laying out, and then there's the owner of the house who will come and welcome you to partake what is on the table. So before that, there's so much that is working behind the scenes that actually needs
all the way
to be
from
done.
farm
All the way from farm
to fork.
Yeah.
Harriet, it's been what, 8 months, 9 months now?
9 months.
9 months.
We can use 9 months because now we're in a new month.
All right.
Yeah.
Can you give us a couple of, because the last time you were here, you explained to us, your coordination role, and there are many things that you have to do with all these ministries and all these programs to see that things are done in the right way, and particularly that there is proper mainstreaming of women affairs in all of them. Can you give us some case studies of what you've been able to work on so far and how they've gone?
Oh, there's a lot. Within the 9 months, we've done quite a lot. I had indicated that my office is looking at various pillars in terms of delivery. And pillar number 1 is leadership and governance. And under leadership and governance, 2/3 comes number one. And you've seen in all discussions, 2/3 is there. Why is it important to this community or in this country? It's simply because a society that leaves half of its population behind, your utility of the resources that you have is also minimal.
Yeah.
And world over, you've realized that if you fashion policies leaving other people who are supposed to be seated on that table, you miss out on one or two things. And this is just not on women alone. There's persons with disability, there's the youth. Globally right now, the discussions that are ongoing, we were at UN Deliver 2 weeks ago, and the voices of the young people is now something that everybody is talking about. So you cannot plan for person X without getting to know what their needs are. So you realize it's important that you bring all these people on the table when it comes to this. So on 2/3, it's just not about leadership in parliament, but we are looking at private sector, because the private sector also plays a big role in fashioning economic empowerment in this country. And we have realized that if we don't accelerate, World Economic Forum placed a report the other day and said for us to achieve 2/3, it's going to take 100 years. And that is cutting across board, both
for
private...
For the world or for Kenya?
The world over. So you can realize it's a geo issue. It's not about Kenya alone. And they have realized if you don't include everybody, all these big things we are talking about, we will not realize them. So the question then is, how do we accelerate the representation of women, youth, persons with disability, everybody? And we discovered we have to actually we have to be very intentional about it. So the Kenyan government signed with the World Economic Forum the intention to accelerate, the participation of women cutting across board, and the pillar that we picked most is MSMEs. So you realize it's just not about leadership. There's so much that needs to go into that. And it requires a lot of work. So my office championed that together with the Ministry of Public Service and Gender and Affirmative Action. And now we are moving into creating the program, M&E, and we cannot leave out the Ministry of MSMEs led by CS Chelugui. And we can also not leave out the Ministry of Trade and Investment, because within MSMEs we are saying we want to accelerate women economic empowerment through MSMEs, but at the same time it has to be economic empowerment and investment. So what does that entail in terms of building the bottom-up economic agenda? Women must join circles. Women must be trained on financial literacy. We are including banks. We have big tire banks which have women programs, but we are saying it's high time that we see the end product of the reports that you give. So how are banks going to fusion and ensure that all this progress or processes that we are putting in place, by let's say in the next 3-4 years, we'll have actually reached a minimum number of, let's say, 2, 3, 4 million women.
Right.
So it is that whole inclusive circular kind of momentum that we want to push.
So does this framework have deliverables, milestones?
Oh yes.
What should we be
targets.
Seeing and by when?
We are cooking. Just like I said, we are in the cooking pot. So we have signed the letter of intent. All the ministries now will have to sit. The technical teams are already procured, so that by the time we have an enriched program, it is end to end. So that Ministry of Trade and Industry will be tasking them, you have to fashion a component for women, and the target is about 2 million women. Ministry of MSMEs, the champions of women economic empowerment, or rather the champions of the bottom-up agenda through the Hustler Fund, will be telling them we need to fashion and have this number of women put together in circles. And we'll also go to the private sector. KEPSA has done also a lot of work. So you'll realize we have to work with the private sector as well and ask the women in construction, the women in trade and investment? How do we build up the numbers? The women in banking, we launched our product with the women lawyers in finance. So what is the role of professionals also in advancing and building into the government agenda? So public service, in as much as we want also to prep and grow, we're also saying we cannot leave the private sector behind. So how can we all come together, work, and deliver for government? You know, that is the question we ask every day. And we also look at ourselves and say, in as much as we're saying we are delivering for government, it is service to the people. So we now want to look at government as a team player. How do we fusion that? Because in many cases, government has been placed there at the corner. But now we are saying, no. All of us.
All of us are government.
All of us are government. You're government. You see, when you're sitting here in this media, wherever, you have to churn programs to say that this is our government. How then do we support this government to deliver on its mandate? Positive criticism is very important, because only then can we look inward and say, Latiff said it's a good point. And because it has come out, let us address it. So I think that is how I look at things. So that is one of the pillars.
Okay.
We've also realized women economic empowerment is the bedrock for us to demystify poverty margins in this country. Why do I say that? When we look at problems like FGM, when we look at problems like violence against women, you'll see poverty is in the center of it. You know, and how can we fashion this?
Sanitation as well.
Yes, sanitation.
Yeah.
So, and then culture. But our cultural practices, when I've talked to many women who do the actual cutting when it comes to FGM, it's an industry. You can imagine if I cut 100 young girls at 10,000 per girl, how much is that? So it's money. So how do we get these women who are in this industry, fashion them to change that practice and move from cutting young girls, which is affecting their health, to now being productive and still earn? It's a lot of work. So we have to do that. And you know, the government signed up that by 2026 we'll have ended FGM.
Yeah.
You know? And it's cultural.
Yeah.
It's a hard discussion to have, but we must have this discussion to save the young girls.
Some of the difficult discussions that you are having and things that you're implementing now, I mean, looking at what would have been largely male-dominated industries and saying it's possible to spur women to then be involved in those. And one of those is construction, which you've cast your eye on. Why that? And how are you seeing that you can incorporate women more to their benefit for themselves as individuals, but then also for a more global outlook in terms of the country?
Yeah, all right, thank you very much. The government has put in place measures to put affordable housing. And the fulcrum of that is job creation. But when we talk about job creation, and I was talking about the private sector and now government, what can private sector do to plow into this? It's still the same infusion. Women in construction, when you look at the statistics which have been given, we have about just 3%. 3% of women.
What?
Of women within the construction industry.
Is construction or development?
It's 3% as construction artisans.
So what we're saying is that of all the workers in the construction sector, only 3% are women.
Yes. Oh, yes. And then you have about 7.3% who are female contractors. So those are artisans. And we have about 15.5% who are quantity surveyors and 17% who are actually registered. And when you look at globally, we are talking about 13% of all construction companies are owned by women globally. And that is why I'm saying these problems are not Kenyan problems. They're actually global. But Kenya has now come down and mirrored and spotlighted where the problems are. And now we are saying we must try and bridge this gap. So women in construction, and because we want women to benefit from this, you'll realize that we need to debunk the narrative that the construction industry is a male-dominated area. And now request or ask women, the majority who are doing the low-income jobs, to now come out, bring themselves together, and even tap into the STEM courses that the government has put in place. I was talking with PS Hinga the other day, and one of the engineers at the public works, and they gave me an interesting analysis that when it comes to construction, a majority of women will go to carry the building material, the water, and all that. But there are aspects of construction that we look on the other side and say it's for men. One of them is plumbing. I can assure you we don't have so many plumbers in this country. If I look at women and we say we want to educate so many women within the STEM program that the government has put in place to get into the plumbing industry, and we fusion that and say, can we target at least 1 million women? Out of the 1 million, can we then target the program that the government has to export labor and say we need to export some of these women? And when we export these women, we also realize there's a whole society system where they'll be registered. And then they are forced to invest back home and support the children at home.
Yeah.
It is a whole cycle. It is hard work, but if we fashion and intensify how we want to do this, it's doable. And we have 4 or 5 years to do this. We have now 5 years. So we've already done the groundwork. We've mapped out where we want this. Then it's all systems go. Let these women go and get trained. We have institutions like Build Her, I think it's an NGO, which is doing a lot of work in training women in construction. So what is Build Her doing? Build Her has looked at artisans and said, within fusioning of a building, there's something called tiling. Tiles for a very long time is a male-dominated job. But the beautification of putting tiles together, a woman's eye is very important. Painting work, if they're trained to do painting well, and you'll agree with me, just to redo painting of this wherever is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if we can fashion women to start thinking that, hey, wait a minute, we can actually do painting. We can actually put ceilings. We have now moved away from this kind of ceilings. I've seen there's a new eco-friendly ceiling. It is almost film. It can be put up within a very short time. Come measurement, plug the ceiling in, 1 person, 2 people, you sit, within 5 minutes it's up. And it's a very strong ceiling, and
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can we take a break?
I think we can do both.
Okay. We've got some commercials to play. It's 28 minutes to 10, Kenya's biggest conversation takes this quick break. Harriet Chigai is the president's senior advisor on women rights. Target of building very many houses within a very short time. And there are 290 constituencies. Affordable housing projects will be in each of those 290 constituencies. How do you participate in this? By owning a home. How do you own a home? By just, first of all, registering on the bomayangu.go.ke, or you can dial *832.
James, hey, been a minute. What's been going on? Mazi, let me tell you about
Towards your dream car. Automark by CFAO. Driving your dreams forward.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
Some very nice, mature music.
They really take me back to my days,
Okay,
and I
so
can just
traffic still continues. Some parts, though, getting out of it, more or less. On the Thika Superhighway, just at that Pangani underpass is where you see the last of it. But other than that, I think we're done. We're also done in most parts. Gong Road flowing freely. A little bit of a hold-up on the southern bypass as you're approaching Langata Road. Not quite sure what's causing that, but in and outbound, it is tight. On the Thika Superhighway, like we said, that looks good. A little bit of movement on the eastern bypass, in and outbound. Also, traffic are officially over. Let's talk through the morning still. Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
And the conversation continues with Harriet Chigai, who's our guest this morning. She is the President's Senior Advisor on Women's Rights. CT.
What you're saying not only makes sense, it is delightful to listen to, and it's aspirational, and it is good. However, what about the level of interests that women have? Is there an overflow of people, of women who are interested in this line of business? Is it something that has been there for some time? And if it has been, are we saying that those interests have not been given an avenue to flourish, or that they have been extinguished, or they have been thwarted in the past, and now pathways must be open so that they can actually flourish?
Yeah. All right, for me, I see it as a knowledge gap. If you don't know, you don't know. Yeah? And that is why we are now going out of our way to tell women there's an opportunity which you can tap into. You can fashion yourselves to grow beyond what you are, or to grow beyond, if we have, let's say, women-led, female-led entities, yeah? What does that mean? Women need to know, if you register a business, there's something called AGPO certificate. Women need to know that within the construction industry, there's more you can do other than brick and mortar. Yeah, because how many brick and mortar projects do we have? So you'll have the person who'll get the brick and mortar projects, but you're also telling women that there's so much that goes into the industry, in the construction business, that you must leverage. As we speak right now, road construction, the government has stopped any new projects. It's completing the existing ones. Within a road construction, which is heavy lifting in terms of financing, how many women, I've just said it attracts about 3% of women. How many women-led entities can actually put up a construction project of a magnitude of about, it's in billions of shillings, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, the financial institutions come in, that is the banks. And now we are asking banks, you have all these PR, gender, lens budgets, and gender sensitive loans, but we are not, when we see the data, it is actually not speaking to that. So we also here to tell the banks, wafungue mfuko, they should open those ports for women, so that if women get these tenders, they're actually able to finance these projects. Now, I learned the other day that, save for the fact that a road has to be built, there's something called beautification of a road. The piping, the drainage systems. Yep. We've seen Mombasa Road now has flowers.
Yep.
All those things.
Pedestrian walkways.
All that forms the larger construction. We're also trying to tell partners who pump in money for huge production and construction of such magnitudes, they have to put a percentage for women. And we have to educate women to tell them there's actually a percentage for women. Yeah. So you guys can actually bid. So women shy away because they don't have the information.
Okay. Yeah. Are you saying that mainstream construction is what women should be involved in? Or are you saying that around the periphery of beautification and things like that, and the softer side of all of this is what should then be reserved for women?
We are asking them to participate all around.
Okay.
If you don't get the big project, find the middle level.
Go for the other.
If you don't get the middle level, go for the 4-tier. If you don't get that one, there's also these other ones, which is still, if you can get 1% of 1 billion, how much is that?
But then
5% of 4 billion, how much is that? You know? So women should not shy away. But at the same time, I'm saying the financial institutions should be ready and willing to invest.
Harriet, there's a time we hosted some ladies here, and they were basically just doing a review of the AGPO program, the Access to Government Procurement Opportunities. And from their reports and what they had looked at, they realized that yes, the government has indeed been promoting and executing and implementing the 30% policy on AGPO. The government has been doing a lot of work on that. This is making sure that at least 30% of any government procurement is earmarked or is set aside for women, youth, or persons with disabilities. But then their main issue was the ticket size of this 30%. That they will always give those small jobs. If it's about, like you said, a big construction project, that only those small, small ticket items like road beautification,
sweeping roads,
installing the street lights is what is left to the AGPO. The other big ones, there's nothing like that that's going to be earmarked for this affirmative action program. And they were saying, how about you actually also put some of these big ticket items in AGPO so that we as women, as youth, as persons with disability can also apply knowing I can take up 100 million shilling project or a 1 billion shilling project?
Very well put. That is also our concern. One thing you'll realize that for you to prove you can do something, you must start somewhere. Right?
Right.
For me to prove that I can do a project of a certain big magnitude, I'll have demonstrated that I did a small project that has grown me to this level, and now I can move to the next level. So AGPO was actually meant for the youth, women, but startups. So if you have managed to do an AGPO project, you then should move from that bun and go to the next level. And that is now where we are. And that is why I'm saying financial institutions should now be able to fund.
Harriet, I have to ask. The interest factor has to come in, because if you have affirmative action and you have all these plans and there aren't enough people who are interested, you'll be exactly where you are now. Is there an overwhelming interest so that this affirmative action push then has an avenue through which it can be channeled? Because if the AGPO program was begun a while ago, that proof of concept, that particular item has been ticked there. But again, the question is still being asked: were there enough women who showed an interest and have taken an interest in this? Because then there's the other aspect of, if you're involved in a big project of a certain magnitude, affirmative action, there must be women who have qualifications to be involved in it, because the learning process at that level would then have to be women being part of that big project, so that beyond them having their own businesses, they're able to participate so they know.
And that's why I'm saying information is power. First, do you have this information? I've just given here the percentages. Only 3% of women are in construction.
Yeah.
The data that we have.
Yeah.
Globally is 13%. And that is why now we are telling women, start making yourselves, when you talk to banks, for a long time they were telling us, but women are not bankable. Why? They don't have property.
Collateral.
You've seen government is now giving out title deeds. Culturally, we're also telling our brothers and sisters, bequeath your female, allow your sisters to own property. It's cultural. So in as much as the government is saying we want to give title deeds, we have culture that is holding us back. Financial institutions are saying, for me to give you this loan, you must give collateral. So financial institutions are saying women are not bankable.
Yeah.
But we want to demystify that. We are now saying we have to have an intent from where the money is coming from to how it is fusioned, trickling down. We have, let me give an example like African Development Bank, because I've engaged with them a lot. And the important thing is that they have a gender desk. They have an affirmative, a leverage on finances that go to affirmative action. When this money is there, if you do not even know the money is there, how are you going to leverage on that? You get what I'm talking about?
That's true.
So we must be able first to know where is the source of this money. How can we negotiate that the affirmative funds are more friendly to female-led, female-built, female-powered initiatives? The banks are coming in there. And I can mention a few banks. Kenya, we have about 5 or so banks which are big on gender lens. But now we want to tell them, you guys have been having about 10 billion fashioned towards women projects. But when you look at the big projects, we are talking about 20 billion and above. So it means if a bank has fashioned 20 billion or 5 billion for women, we are still telling women we can only finance the lower cadre kind of projects.
Yep.
So that is why I'm saying, even if there are 5 companies that want to tap into these finances and everyone is capping the level of funding and finances that can be given to women to a small margin, it is still the same problem.
Still marginalized.
It's still marginalized. So we are saying all hands on deck, global approach, fusion within our local approaches, cultivate it in our institutions, and holistic approach to these issues. We should not just look at one item, tick a box and say we have a policy. Everybody has a policy. But now we are saying lift those policies from where they are and shelve them. Let us debunk these policies and let us now start saying we are achieving.
So which institutions are you working with in order to achieve this? Because really, the goal is good, the goal is noble.
Yeah.
To achieve it, you have to partner.
Yes.
So which institutions are you partnering within government?
We are partnering with very many institutions. And the one thing I think I need to give women hope is that the affirmative funds now, everybody is warming up to that. Everybody is warming up to the fact that it is important that we include women, because the backdrop of economic development rests within the lower cadre. And you find there are so many women within that banner. Then let us build this lower cadre to leverage and keep growing. They cannot stay down there. If you started a kiosk, in the next 2-3 years, we should see you with a supermarket. That's the kind of fashioning we want. But you can only leverage and come from a kiosk to a supermarket if funds are available. So my call then would be, let's unlock the affirmative funds. Let us unlock. If the gap is education, if the gap is intellect, if the gap is how to utilize these funds, save, then let's unlock that gap. And within the next 10-15 years, we'll actually see the hard work that is being done now.
Yeah.
So sometimes the things that we want to do cannot be actualized now, but in the next 5 or so years, we should be able to see that.
But like you said,
yes,
all hands on deck, but also all hands on deck in monitoring that the gains are safeguarded.
Exactly.
So for instance, I could say that with AGPO, there are very many gains. There are very many women and youth and persons with disability organizations that came up to apply for contracts through AGPO. Unfortunately, when you talk about pending bills and those that have faced frustration and those that have actually even gone under, very many are those particular groups. Those ones that are getting low-cost contracts and jobs that I've seen what Ndu has gone through. Why would I want to go that route? The same thing, if we don't have a proper program, for example, with this affordable housing project across the country, hundreds of thousands of houses are being built, but there is no proper plan that says this is the number of women that need to be employed in various cadres in this affordable housing, was nowhere.
Yeah. On pending bills, let me just say I haven't interrogated them in depth, but we've heard the president talk about fusioning and putting proper audit to ascertain that all pending bills are legit. So in as much as they are suffering from that, they have to be patient with us, with the government.
They have been.
Yes.
Patient.
And
so what the point is?
And
yes.
once, I'm sure there are those which have been audited. Yeah. So the question then would be, how fast can they be paid? That is pegged on the budget allocations, and it's pegged with the institutions which are handling that. So from where I sit, I would not be honest to say I've interrogated pending bills as a person. But it is a problem that we all acknowledge that it's there. It is also a problem that is pulling us behind. And you've had the president saying it's something that needs to be addressed. So it's something that needs to be addressed. And the rallying call then is, why would you take up projects? Yeah, and you've seen the current government is now putting in place projects on pegged on PPT's investment, because we've realized this injection of huge sums of money into projects, you're actually killing the basket of, how should I put it, the liquidity ratio. For the first time, county governments have been paid 100%. I think we should talk about these things. The governors are happy because now they have the money. So at the county level, I expect all these payments to be done. So the question then is, where is the pending bill sitting? Is it at national government or at county?
I think both.
If it's at county, and then you see that is also the other aspect where everybody is talking about finances, public finances. Management of public finances has been a big problem. It didn't start now. It is historical. If you look at universities...
If I may just cut you short for a while.
Yes.
We had a gentleman in the studio here who heads an organization of people who actually work with the governments, county and national.
Yeah.
And one of the things he told us, which was actually honest, was that the national government actually pays their debts quite well. He said it here.
That is very positive. I think you should echo that again.
That is why I cut you short to explain to you.
Yes.
Their beef with the national government, they said the national government pays you.
Yeah.
When they have the money, they pay you. Their problem is with county government.
County government.
Yes. And yet, even with the county governments, we have county governments like the county government Mombasa who are paying their debts. This very audit that you're speaking of, they did. They verified.
Quick.
And they're paying.
All right.
All right. CIA as well.
CIA has moved along that same line. So it isn't as though we're in this deep dark hole and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's light, even if it's a glimmer of it. There is. But when it comes to this subject that we're talking about with women, it's an important one.
Yeah.
Because when you think of the rural area, of the rural areas and the economy, women are at the center of it. So anything, because some of these projects we speak of, they happen in the rural areas. How then do we involve women in it so that the money that trickles in from that particular economy can actually then be transferred into the economy of this so-called rural area that we keep speaking of?
Well, that is very positive in terms of first, the most important thing first is to understand where we are, where we are coming from, where we are, and where we want to go. Yeah. So it is very important that national government actually pays.
They pay.
At the county level, then we need to understand what are the problems in all these counties, and those problems, how can they be mitigated? So it will be also
May I suggest something?
Yes.
Harriet. Now that the cabinet decided that one of the ways that we're going to deal with these pending bills is by constituting another new, bigger task force that brings in Law Society, brings in, Architecture Association, and brings in these ministries. How about you advise that they start by auditing all AGPO contracts so that you clear those ones? Because when you deal with AGPO, you're basically dealing with persons with disability who have pending bills, women and youth who have pending bills. Start with clearing those, and you will find that majority of those, because they are AGPO, it's tickets of about 100 million to 200 million.
Yeah.
Clear those ones. Out of this 600 billion shilling thing we're talking about, you'll only end up with maybe 10 billion shillings. Pay them. That's a lot of money coming into the economy. That's a lot of small businesses that are keeping alive. Those businesses can then apply and go to the banks that you're working with and all the other institutions. They can go and borrow to do bigger projects?
Yeah, good point, and I'm sure that will form part of the TOR. And I'm sure the setting up of the technical team to look into this was very... The government is looking at getting solutions, not creating more...
Back into the issue of women in construction and the work that you're doing. What exactly are you focusing on in the next couple of weeks or months?
The Ministry of Transport, led by CS Murkomen. We had a good conversation, and we actually agreed to function a one-day seminar for women in construction. It is a conversation that not only do we want women, but we also want the younger women to come out and be part of the conversation. This will then feed into a bigger conversation next year, which all the players within the construction industry have to fashion and start having annual women in construction seminars which can build women. So we will be championing the education industry, the TVET institutions, STEM. Where are we? So it's a good way of making the public get to know, and at the same time also get to identify the women who are doing very well, and even ask women to support other women. Like the county governments, we have 7 governors. The county government's budgets are key. We are very key to see how the budget has been done with a gender lens, And for me, it is, there's nothing as beautiful as women supporting women. Someone joked the other day when we were in Kigali Women Deliver and said, if you're actually a woman and you do not support another woman, you actually have a special place in hell. And I thought, what a way, to start the seminar. But it's actually true, because if we have many women, and most of us have leveraged our support and our growth from women who have been there before us. Personally, within cabinet, there are women I look up to. Ambassador Monica Juma is such a great mentor, and the years of experience she has, nobody has. So you can only be so clever to leverage and get to learn something from her. Can leverage